Are we live? Is this thing on? I think it's on. Hello? Hello, hello. Hi. How we doing? I don't know that today feels like a day that I want to follow instructions, but we'll be following instructions, so see how this goes. Hello. Hello, can you hear me okay? I put my microphone in a new place, so let me know if it's loud enough for you. So I could actually see my screen. It's not in front of my face. Yeah, be quiet. Be quiet, being sneaky. Ghost Hunter, I'm not going to say I was trying to break your stream streak, but hello. Hello. I'm going to build a thing. We're going to build a thing. Because I have a lot of things at the house to build, so we're building a thing. Is this all the right things? Yeah, 43, 44. All right. How's everybody's weekend kicking off? Oh, check it out. She actually decided to grace us with her presence. The one, the only, Cora. She's been sunning her buns outside, but I think the sun wore her out. I think laying around in the grass wore her out. So she's decided to come hang out with Dad. And as long as I don't turn on the air compressor for the airbrush, she's probably okay. She doesn't like the compressor very much. LaPlante, yes. The home studio. El Dago. That's Cora. Hi, Cora. Yeah, you on camera. You don't even know it. We're stealing your soul quietly. Shh, don't tell anybody. She's just like peeking at me. The dog is the main part of the show. The dog is the show. Joel, yeah, we got, what are these guys called? Gimred Knights? Gimred Knights? I don't know. Gimred, something. They're Weaver Quartz. I love the look of these guys. I'm very excited about them, but they're always where I am when I don't want to build. They were at the studio for a while, then I brought them home, and I made the mistake of building something else, and so I didn't get started on them, so they just sat at home, and I didn't take them back to the studio. Then I'd be at the studio, and I'd be like, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to build those things I don't have here. And then I didn't, and then, I'm sure you've never felt that way in your entire life. That, oh, you know what? I'd really like to work on that thing that isn't right here, or that I don't own yet. I never want to work on the things that are in front of me. Rip. Rip. Mullets, what's going on? Happy Saturday. Welcome, everybody. M3 Stout, hoping to get better. You sheared 2 screws putting up cabinets and can't hang the door, so came to paint and let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I'm building a thing and you're building dinner? What? Your day has been awesome. Just help your dad wash and polish your hot rods. Oh, that sounds cool. Today's your Monday. Simple Liz. What? Wait a minute. So are you off like all week? Or do you work like Saturday through Thursday? Or through Wednesday? Bakanawa, what's going on? Gillenborn, yes. It's a week. Shh, don't tell anybody. Especially don't tell Tim, because he's going to be pissed if he loses his stream streak. I see you, Tim. I'm not saying I'm doing this because of you, but I see you. All right, I'm just trying to figure all this stuff out. 51. Voist face. I see a lot of 50 other things. 50. not 1. 55, 52, 51. There it is. $52. Then what? Horns. I want a big elk. I feel like if I had a big, friendly, mutated elk, I could get a lot done in this world. I feel like that's probably a good assessment of it. I'm not saying that I don't get a lot done already. I'm just saying that what if you had a big mutated elk? That could be kind of cool. These are called Gimred Knights. They don't have a really good picture of them, but it's these guys. Do I have the box? I don't know. No. Maybe. Yes. It's these guys. Weaver Quartz. I'm going to say Gimred, but it might be Gimred. Gimred Knights. Cavalry. I'm building one because I have one in my First Blood warband. So we're going to do... I'm going to get myself in trouble because I'm going to paint some of these warbands to a very high level. And then I'm not ever going to be able to play that faction in the larger game because I would never match all the other units to the level I'm going to paint the First Blood warband. So I think that's my only problem with games that scale like this, where you get like a skirmish level version of it and then a big army version of it, but you use the same miniatures, because it's like you want to paint the skirmish level to a very high level, and then you wind up having to paint 50 more models, and you're like, well, that's not going to happen. Papa Chicken, I am not reading that. I'm not reading. I'm not. Papa Chicken, no. I don't even have the chicken here. I need to bring some noisemakers to the house. We have grass in AZ. It's fake. Don't tell anybody. Like the stream, it's fake. This is all AI. This is all generative AI that we're testing out to see if the AI has learned how to pretend to be Jason well enough. Beep boop. You did a paint and take today, painter get nice. Oh, nice. 24 were new painters out of 27. That's awesome. Congrats. That's doing the Lord's work right there. I love it. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah, sleepy pupper. She's just lazy. She's lazy. This morning when Jen and I were trying to sleep, she was not lazy. She was bugging me. I had to get up multiple times. I finally got back, and she let me sleep like an extra hour, and then it was done. Then it was just done. Get up, Dad. Day's starting. Leave me alone. Took you 20 minutes to get a table-ready Wolverine for MCP using OneStep. Oh, right. It's crazy. OneStep lets you paint super fast just to get it, like you said, table-ready, but then it doesn't make it to where you can't go back over it, is my love of our new paint, is that you can literally, right, just get it done fast for going to the game store and then work on it as long as you want, make it display quality, whatever, and never have to change anything. You're looking at the pup on screen and the one on your floor, and the resemblance is comedic. I think they all do this. I think all dogs are the same dog. Painting scale mail on a Warcrow orc. Some of those Warcrow models are really cool. Are we a go forward on the new studio, Bogus? Yes. Yes, we've got them going over it and getting paperwork together, and then we'll start working on all that this next week. It was funny, just a quick aside from yesterday, sorry we didn't stream, but I had an appointment that went long, and they were late. They were over an hour late meeting me, so they didn't get there until 3:30, and we were supposed to meet them at 2. And so I met them at 3:30, which was funny because one of our employees was at the office, which is right across the street from this building we're looking at. And so I sat and chatted with her for a while. She was waiting on UPS. And then I went over and met with them, and it's a cool building. It was actually owned by the same people that own the building we're in now, but they moved out of it. So it's very similar in its finishes. So it's done very well. And it looks like we're gonna rent 2 units in it. One of them is actually like a little broadcast studio right now. It's nothing comparative to what we do. It's not as high quality, but it's funny that they have a little broadcast studio there where they did like a religious podcast or something like that. So it's already set up for that, even though the space is not the way we would want it. It's just kind of funny that that's what it is. It's a perfect size and perfect layout and everything for Chris and I to do the studio. And then we're going to rent another studio for him that has some offices in it. So it'll be really good if it comes through. I'm crossing my fingers. Aquarish, yes, that's a Cora. It's a Cora. It looks like the royal mounts of the Royal Canadian Yaxman. Yeah, exactly right. Miniature Apprentice, yeah. I'm super excited for people to get OneStep in their hands next month. Reaver Courts Moose Riders. Moo. I think they're elk. But yes. They're milk or elk goose. That doesn't seem right at all. That's why you don't want to buy any more orc boys. Yeah, just take the kill team. Paint 8 orcs and be done. Fusebot, fire Chris. Beep boop. Chris, you're fired. Chris is off goofing around with Gabe. I want everybody that's a part of the Discord. If you're not a part of the Discord, go join the Discord. But if you're part of Discord, go wish Gabe a happy birthday. Today's Gabe's birthday. So go wish Gabe a happy birthday in main chat. Tag him, tell him I sent you. There you go. Happy birthday, Gabe. I'm not going to sing him the song. He's not here. You got to be here to get the song. I'm not doing it for him when he's not here. I don't know what they're doing, but they're somewhere else. Chris and Gabe off doing friend things in the mountains or something. I don't know what they're doing. You learn so much from this channel as a very new painter, and just want to say thank you. Bobzaget. Bob, I'm going to call you Bob. Bob Saget. Oh, it's Bob Saget. Thank you, Bob. The local craft shop had teamed up with us. It's a lot of people being introduced to the hobby. That's awesome, Painterly. Really, really dig it. So an argument for making the OneStep into traditional colors: when you've got a painter that makes sloppy mistakes, it's near impossible to do touch-ups to correct. You're a painter that makes sloppy mistakes. So what do you mean making OneStep into traditional colors? Like the regular colors from the line? The medium allows you to take any color and turn it into OneStep, so it's already solved. It's a solution. Rip Jabe's notifications. That's the way it's supposed to be done. You're supposed to blow up his notifications. He'll wonder why everybody just decided to do that. And then he'll see we're on and he'll be like, damn it, Jason. Is OneStep medium out yet? It was out at Adepticon where we did the pre-release. It will come with the first 12 colors. The release this next month is the first 12 colors plus the medium. So you will be able to get it very soon. Very soon. It's a shame, but like we already have so many sets made in the office, right? But we can't sell them to you. Rip. Rip. The team is really jazzed. We're getting very close. It's going to be a lot of fun. Excitement abounds. Just a few more weeks away, if all goes well. We got to get all the singles ready. We got to get it out to retailers. That's the biggest delay, is making sure that we get all of the production of the remaining singles done, and then get everything posted out to the, I don't know, hundreds of retailers have bought in on the pre-release. We're over in Europe. If you're in Europe, we're over in Europe, in France, at a convention right now, Ludiverse, over the weekend. And Mally and Allie have got the OneSteps over there for sale. So we're excited to see what people in Europe think about them when they get to use them face-to-face. They were able to buy them during Adepticon on the website, just as a way to make sure that nobody that couldn't come to Adepticon from Europe missed out. And now they're at Ludiverse, kind of like we did at Adepticon with a limited pre-release going on. So get to France. You got one more day. Ludiverse ends tomorrow, I think. It was today and tomorrow. So if you want OneStep really bad, buy a ticket to France. I want to know if there's anybody out there who is crazy enough to do something like that. Like, oh my gosh, I'm in Wisconsin. I'm going to go to France to buy OneStep paints. I'm going to fly in, fly out. You know, like on your private jet. I want to know that we have like one customer like that. It's like, oh yes, I called up the butler, had him get the jet ready, and we ta-ta'd off to France for a night. We ate by the Eiffel Tower, attended Ludiverse for 15 minutes. Oh, I sent a lackey, right? No, he wouldn't go. This person wouldn't go to Ludiverse, right? They would send somebody while they were having tea time or something to go and pick it up. I want to know that there's one of you out there. Don't tell me who you are. I don't want it. I don't want the mystique of it to be broken. But that's going to be my headcanon from now on. We have one customer that's what they do. Now, anytime any of you see me at a show, I want you to come up and say, "Oh yeah, I'm the butler for that customer of yours." Don't name them. Don't name and shame. I just want you to say that. Every time you see me, just do that. Keep me honest. Remind me. For those of you that have not been a party to a weekend show that is just me and no Chris to keep me in line, I apologize ahead of time. This may make you think completely differently of Monument Hobbies hanging out with me on a weekend. I live up to my namesake. I am a little crazy. Hopefully I don't chop a digit off with this knife. I always forget that the tools at home are much sharper than the tools at the office because we use them less. So they cut better, which is great, but they cut better, which is horrible. Looks pretty good. The minute it comes out, you'll be buying. They're really, really good. Mike is the most private jet chatter we have. Mike, he of the unusually long name. He's just reading it. Aha! See? Tim, if you were here earlier, I called you out specifically. I said we just need to make sure that somebody lets Tim know so he gets in here to keep his streak intact. And then I looked directly at the camera, Tim, and I said, Tim, I'm not doing this because of you. I did. Ask chat. I'm not lying. I thought about you. I didn't make any adjustments to making the stream go live, but I thought about you. I thought about you. I did not want to make anybody mad with their stream streaks, but I'm having a day where I just want to hang out with my friends on the internet and build some models. Maybe do some painting. Who knows? See if we get a crazy streak going that's long enough for me to get this guy built and primed and put some color on him. You just never know. We might do 24 hours. Who knows? Jen's not feeling good, so her allergies have been kicking her butt. I like the fact that the mold lines on Conquest models are very easy to clean on the new plastics. The new plastics since like 22, they've had their Archon Studios plastics. I think 22 or 23, and these are great. Very hard plastic, so it scrapes nice, doesn't beat up. Creates a lot of dust, which you can see the static cleaning on the blade is a little messy, but I'm not going to complain about it. Archon's killing it. Yeah, the StarCraft stuff is really nice. I don't care about StarCraft as much as an individual, but I really like the models. I think that I will be building and painting some Zerg models. I know Baby J painted some Zerg on stream when I was gone. I think everybody really dug that. But there's some of those models that I just really dig. So the Kerrigan model I'm not as big a fan of. It's not as cool. So hopefully they do some resculpts or some limited edition ones of her, because that model I think could be really awesome. But I always felt it was bigger. I don't know a lot about StarCraft. I just have watched some of the cinematics, and I feel like she's always bigger than life. I would like to see a bigger than life Kerrigan. I would paint the crap out of that. I don't know anything about the story. The first thing was funny. I walked up and I was like, this is a great game, but when are you going to have more factions? I don't think that's how StarCraft works, but it'll be interesting to see how they do that. If they maybe this is a time where they get to play with the whole StarCraft ecosystem and make new factions or something, bring new storylines, bring it back to life through the board game. 'Cause I don't think there's been any new StarCraft in forever, right? There was like StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2, and that's it. Again, I don't know. I can't center up. I refuse. Stream streaks go poof a lot for you lately. Hopefully, after track season ends, things will settle. Awkwardish. School is tough, right? When you're having to meet the demands of kids' schedule and all that stuff. I can only imagine being a good parent and maintaining a healthy hobby life is tough anyway. And then when you throw into it that there are basically TV shows that you would like to watch that aren't at prime time, they don't fit family life. You know, it's like, oh, I feel like 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. That'd be great. I didn't do it. It's not my fault. Core won't build my models, so this is what you get. You heard me. Yeah, you don't build for me. You need to build my models for me. Lazy bum. You lazy. Has she moved? Is she dead? StarCraft stuff is not your favorite from a style standpoint, but that's personal preference. I like the Zerg. I like a lot of the concepts on the Protoss. I'm trying to remember their names. Protoss. The guys that would have been Eldar had they continued with the GW stuff are kind of cool. The regular Marine bros are just, they're good. They're just generic space combat bros. The big heavy guys are cool. Marauders or whatever they're called. Their walker thing's kind of cool. It's like a cross between a Sentinel and the stuff from Avatar. A lot of neat concepts in it. And when I see the models in front of me, I like them a lot more than just the concepts of the game. So they're pretty simplistic in the game, but they can look really good on tabletop. Seen some painted ones that look really good. The way Baby J's doing his Queen is really cool. The OneStep stuff really made it come alive. Paints like OneStep just really do a great job on organic aliens and things with a lot of texture to them that can be biological. Had a hard time with that just then. It's the weekend. Not supposed to have to talk on the weekend. I'm depressed because I'm getting close to the end of the story on the game that I've been playing, which is this Wuchang Fallen Feathers Souls-like game. I think it's out of China. It's actually really good, but it's I'm getting to the end, I think. And I always hate that part of Souls-like games because then there's a lot of replayability if you go to Next Game Plus or New Game Plus, but it's like you're just doing the same thing again, just with all your weapons and carryover experience and stuff from the first playthrough. And I'm not always the biggest fan of that, so it'll be interesting to see if I lose all my interest in it here pretty soon. Sugar Rush, it's really great. You think there's a number 2 coming out? I don't believe so. I think they just fired or laid off the entire studio. I heard that in a video like 2 days ago. Bad news for the studio that they are just in maintenance mode, that they laid off 60% or more of the studio or something like that. Seems to be a regular theme with games because they keep spending too much on them and don't get enough return. We could have a hours-long conversation on the mismanagement of entertainment in that world right now because it's allowed too many investors who don't know anything about the world of entertainment to get involved. And so they pile a bunch of money in thinking they're going to make a bunch of money. And then when sales don't hit their unreasonable targets, right? It's like, yeah, it'd be nice to have $250 million to shoot a movie, but that means you have to make $500 million in order to make it worthwhile. And movies aren't doing that a whole lot these days. And video games especially, and they're spending like movie money on video games, which is stupid. Keep hearing about the GTA 6 money, and I'm like, that's just dumb, dude. That's just dumb. I mean, I know a bunch of people buy GTA 6, but that's just dumb. $1 billion or something. Star Citizen's going to hit $1 billion, not even playable, really. This is tough getting in between the antlers here. Where's my voteist? I don't see my seam scraper anywhere. Am I just missing it? Is it right in front of me? I don't see it. Rip me. Pump Crunchy, what's going on? These are Conquest Double T, yeah. They are. They are 200 to 300 million on AAA, and the indie games are killing them. Killing them. Every game I see that's making big waves, other than when people talk about GTA 6. And GTA 6 is really the only one that gets that kind of play. Is that all these other games have been super cheap. This, which is surprising about this Wuchang Fallen Feathers game, is it was done by an indie Chinese studio, and it didn't take a lot of money to do it, from what I understand, and they did a great game. Liza P, same way. I'm a big Souls-like fan, right? My favorite game style, I think, if I were to really lay it out, is that third-person over-the-shoulder, slightly ARPG kind of play game, Souls-like, where difficulty is control bashingly good. Although I will say that Wuchang, the game I'm playing right now, is a little too easy, and there's no settings to make it harder that I can find. I've been trying to play it without. Has a dynamic in there that's called Chaos, maybe? Is it Chaos? I don't know what it's called. As you kill things, you Chaos meter builds, or your something meter builds, and you do more damage but take more damage. And I haven't been using it. I've been clearing it all the time so that I don't get any extra damage from it to try to make the fights harder. I haven't summoned anybody at bosses, none of that, and it's still too easy. So I wonder if that's why people didn't like it much. It also has absurd outfits for the main character, which are kind of not pleasing to some people. I can understand that. Elden Ring was the first game you ever played that gave you a proper whooping. Yeah, yeah. Oh, you still have to beat Millennia. I'm on like New Game Plus Plus on Elden Ring now, and Shadow of the Erd Tree, the expansion. But I haven't played it in a long time. It's tremendous as a game, and the Millennia fight, that boss fight is rough. It is rough. Elden Ring, I summoned a lot of things. I would use the tier at +10. Elden Ring puts you in your place. And it started out really easy, and then they tuned it through updates and made it a lot better. When it first came out, it was way under tuned. I felt like, and then they made it more like a Dark Souls game. It has enough bosses on the side that you can find that are, you know, approachable to newer players, and then it has some big stuff where you're like, yeah, this is gonna take a while. This Wuchang gang, I've beaten, God, over half the bosses on the first try. That's unheard of for me on Souls Likes. Even like Liza P, I didn't get many of the bosses, if any, on the first try. Not liking these horns for cleaning. A lot of inside curves and dual katana on your playthrough. That's actually a really good build. Are you running? I am gonna fail the blood build, the bleed build. Is it arcane? If you run arcane agility, as long as you're not using the big sword, arcane agility works really well. I did my second playthrough that way in Elden Ring. All bosses, no switch. Even the final boss in Shadow of the Erd Tree, which is one of the toughest ones, the Radon as a kid, young Radon or whatever. That fight's brutal, but I did it with the katanas. Has some good movesets. That's kind of my preferred style. I like strength and agility builds, but not. I don't ever play with two-handed weapons, or very rarely, unless there's a build that I just want to try out. I like playing fast builds. In Wuchang, I'm doing the long sword, which is just a strength agility build. But I want to do in my new game plus, I want to do dual swords. It doesn't have the reach. The longsword has a lot of reach in Wuchang, so you can hit enemies really far away, but not have to wield a big two-handed sword. A lot of fun. Been playing Final Fantasy 14. I've been trying to. Yeah. Zilfer, I renewed my account with them and have been playing it, and I started a new character. I'm just doing warrior tanking. And I've gotten up to like level high 60s or low 70s or something right now. And it starts to be a grind the way the story is. It's beating me up because it's all cutscenes, no playing the game. That bums me out. But that's the only thing that drives me nuts about Final Fantasy IV. I think it's the best MMO ever. I think it's just really tough because the style doesn't agree with me. I don't really care for the more anime style, and they put a lot into the fashion of it, and a lot of that I don't care about. And the cutscene stuff, the stories just get too tell me the story, don't let me participate in the story, and that kind of is a bummer. I would like for it to be less of that, more participate in the story. But it's a great game. Don't get me wrong. That's that and Elder Scrolls Online. I went back and started playing, but only because of Chris and Gabe. And then they jetted. They told me to get it. It's great. They'll play with me, and then they played one night with me, and then they didn't ever again. And I don't think it was me. I'm going to go with it wasn't me. It was them. They ditched me because they haven't been playing it at all either, without me or with me or whatever. And it's pretty good too. It gets a little boring as well, only because it loses a lot of the, it gets to be a little too Skyrim, where it's like there's not really a path to take at some point in time. I don't remember what level I'm at, 30 or something like that, and there's like not really a path for you, so it feels a little like a rug pull. It has some new player experience storytelling, and then it kind of loses that along the way. I think a lot of games are like that. They lose the story at some point, if they even had one. That's why I like Souls-like games. There's a loose story, but I don't even have to care about what it is, really. Doesn't matter. Super cutscene heavy, yeah. Whereas the great Unga Bunga tank, I really like it. It just has a big axe. It's just a big axe. Exactly. I enjoy slamming. I face rolling for big crits, big numbers, and I don't have to really. I have like one. If I have what is that? I have one sequence of things that I do if it's single target and one for multi target, and that's all I have to know. So it really appeals to me that way. You dabbled in WoW about 15 years too late. Yeah, Lotro was a really good game. I went back and started playing an elf. I was a dwarf rune caster or something like that for years in that game. Loved it. But of course, it got old in the tooth, and a lot of people left it, so it started to become not as fun. But then I went back and started an elf character. Excuse the noise. We're going to vacuum some of this up. That got Cora to move, didn't it? That got you to move. You don't like the noises. Yeah, the only plot point you need to know is that you're either maidenless or you don't have the fire inside you, or whatever those games do, or you're Pinocchio and you don't realize it. If you have not played Lies of P, it's a great game. If you don't like Souls games, you're not going to like it, but it was great. ESO is great, but it does get pretty boring. Yeah, it does. You just kind of boss farm, or you're just going and trying to run along all the roads and do everything that everybody has as a quest. It's a little. Dale Duback, any motion on Monument Hobbies Canada? Yes, actually. I just sent out an email this morning, as a matter of fact, to the team up there. We've got to get a meeting together to be able to sit down and go over what next steps and action items are for getting production ramped up. We won't be able to open up the Canadian store until we are producing solely for Canada out of that office. And that is, they have everything except labels for bottles right now. So all the bottles, agitators, lids, everything's up there in mass, like 1 million of each, or 500,000 of each. So we've got a lot of raw material up there ready to go. Machines are ready to go. Personnel is ready to go. I just need labels for bottles. So I'm having a call this next week. And hopefully the art team, that's Chris's team, can get all of that done here pretty quick so that we can start producing. And then once we have product, we will launch the site. The site will most likely launch with just Pro-Acryl paint at first. Sorry. My mat keeps moving around on the carpet. So it'll have mainly just Pro-Acryl paint on it at first, but we'll add the other products as we get all that sorted, because we're having to ship a lot of the product from overseas for the other stuffs. But yeah, it'll be soon. I'm excited for that. I can't wait to launch the site. We launched the updates to the US site Monday. And that's a big part of all of this, because the Canadian, EU, UK, Australian offices and websites are reliant upon this new web look that we've got going on. And then once that's all done and sorted in the US this next week, hopefully we'll get through any of the bugs on that. It's not a new site. It's just new tutorial information and workflow on purchasing products. Got some neat stuff, like when you go, and all the YouTube videos will be embedded on the site now, so you don't have to hunt for them on YouTube. And below each video, we have a carousel of the products we use, so that if you're looking at what colors did you use, they'll be right below the video. So some really cool integration with the tutorials and the web store. Once that's done and tested, then we're going to have that be the way we implement on Canada first. And so we'll be launching the Canada site. With any luck, we'll be launching it in May, like end of May, like hopefully right around the time OneStep hits, so that we can have OneStep on there too. I don't guarantee that, but that's my goal. Blades 80 want to be able to get all the Pro-Acryl she wants, hopefully. Oh my God. Bishtar, yeah, it's logistics and trying to figure out how, as a company, we can continue to handle customers abroad in the most efficient way possible is really tough. We put a lot of expenditure into it. It's a lot of risk for us, because most people would just hire a distributor. But we have a Canadian distributor, and then while they've done great for us, they just never have the ability to sell like we do, because they're not tied into our ecosystem the same way. It's always tough. I'm just going to slap this on here and hope I get close, right? That looks good enough. Good enough for government work. OneStep has 12 colors in May, plus the medium Sugar Rush. 12. The 12 that were at Adepticon. I showed off another 12 this week. I am hoping to get all of that information back to the lab. I've got to do some other color changes, but they can get going on like 8 or 9 of them to get the freeze thaw and all that stuff going. So maple syrup medium and wizard's butt A. Kriegs, no, Prime doesn't auto renew. They make you go in and use it. Wirehead, your site for the Canadian site. You've been preaching Pro-Acryl to everybody, but it's not available locally and has to be bought in from across the province. And some places don't carry everything. Yeah. Yep. Once a year, you start a Dark Souls 1 run with ambitions and ideas, never return to it. Yeah. Kill Smaug and then never touch the character. You get to like that certain point and then stop. I go back every now and then and double T Elden Ring it is. Yeah, do it. I go back every few years and play through all of them, right? So I started Dark Souls 1 and I do a new style playthrough, although I'm running out of new style playthroughs. I do a playthrough of 1, 2, and 3. I do not have a PS5, so I can't do Demon Souls. Um, but I would love to figure out a way to do that without buying a PS5. I would love to go back and play Demon Souls, and then do Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, and then Bloodborne, and then Elden Ring. Play them all. I stopped Bloodborne because the PlayStation is in the office. I need to bring that home and tie it onto my computer desk, and then I can play Bloodborne again. I have PS4, and Bloodborne's like the only thing on it. Bloodborne and like Destiny, I think. And so I would like to do that. And then every now and then Elden Ring. There's a lot of other Souls games, Souls likes out there that are really, really great, like I've been talking about. And so there's so many of them nowadays that you can just do that. I need to go play Lords of the Fallen. Lords of the Fallen 2 is coming out. I didn't finish Lords of the Fallen, the newer one. I got it, played it for a little bit, and then kind of forgot about it. I don't know what else happened in my life right around then, video game wise. But I just never went back to it. Might have been when I was playing Noida a lot. Noida sapped the life out of every other video game I was playing at the time. That clamshelled together really nice. Wizard's butt is exactly the color of a wizard. Exactly. A wizard's butt is exactly the color it wants to be. How you handle customer service is great. I hope it continues. The bigger you branch out, Mally is always very friendly and informative through email contact. Stan, awesome. Yeah, Mally and Allie are great. They're out at Ludiverse right now, and it seems to be going really, really well. Everybody that is talking with them is really enjoying it. Mally and Allie are great people, so very, very nice. Very, very customer focused. That's why they run our European office. We knew them for a long time. Mally was one half of Journeyman Miniatures. And when he departed the company, I was always like, well, if we get a chance to work again, let's do it. And when I really decided that, we wanted to open up a EU office, he was the first call I made. And he jumped at it. So they're great. It is nice to be able to have people, especially when you're dealing with an office overseas that we're not at, it's tough to be remote workers. It's tough on them, tough on us. And it's good to have good people to do that. He's an ex-cop, so both of them are ex-police, actually. Married couple. Met each other as cops. It's a good story. I know they're over tired in France right now, talking all day. French is not their first native language. They're expat Brits, and yet they're over in France at a French convention, speaking French all day. Allie was, at the end of the day, she was like, I don't know how we did it. She said, it's crazy how people say numbers over here when they're talking cash. She was like, it's not just 49, it's like 20 and, or like 10 and 20, 10 and 9. I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me. I don't know French. But she's like, the way that they speak their numbers was throwing her off, and she had to deal with it all day. Somebody in chat know French? French, François. Sacre bleu. Your PC died last week, so I haven't been able to play anything. On the upside, you get more painting done? Yeah, definitely. That's the upside to when you don't have video games. I go in these, people ask all the time, like, what do you do when you're not feeling the muse for painting? And I go in big video game kicks where I'll find a game I like or go back to a game like Dark Souls. Usually I'll start that, that replay Dark Souls journey when I don't have anything hobby related that I'm very into, or I'm just not feeling it, whatever. That's when I'll get on a video game kick. Every now and then a good video game hits and you're just like, you're on that kick no matter what, because it's fun. But for me, most of the time, it's more because, I just don't feel like hobbying. And so I'll play video games. And then vice versa, I'll get into hobbying and just completely space out and forget whatever video game I was on. And if I was something that was like a Souls like and you come back later, it's like, that's happened with Sekiro, right? Which I didn't mention as a Souls like because I don't like it as much. I don't like the force to parry kind of a thing. Um, but every time I've tried to play Sekiro, that's happened. I've gotten on a really big hobby streak. Probably because the game frustrates the crap out of me. A lot of seam inside the deep valleys of that harness there. Makes it hard to clean. That's pretty good though. Ever since you started miniature painting and YouTube, your PS5 has been neglected. It just gathers dust, probably like mine, right? Oh, I don't have five, but my four, any of my console stuff. I'm on the computer all the time for business, right? Our whole business is basically run on the computer, so the computer is always right in front of me. Um, and sometimes that keeps me from wanting to play video games because at the end of the day, I'm like, I want to be out of. I don't want this anymore. You need to get back to Dark Souls. You're still on the first one, just past the gargoyles on the church roof, the duels. Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. Your hobby palette cleanser is to go sit in front of a pair of speakers and play a bunch of old vinyl and enjoy the pops and click. Nice. That's not ever a bad thing. Mr. Blue Cougar, what's going on? Howdy, nerds. Sekiro parries are almost a rhythm game at some points. Yeah, I know a lot of people like it because it has a feeling of how to put this. I think Sekiro feels like it's easily beatable once you figure out the rhythm. Whereas Dark Souls doesn't necessarily, it does in that the bosses all have a series of attacks. There's still some RNG to which attack they choose, but once you know their attack cadence and the types of attacks, you can get used to it, and it's just more patience than anything. Whereas Sekiro is literally get up in their face and parry them, and if you parry them enough and break their stance, then you win, right? Because it's just like automatically take away a health bar. There is no brute force hack and slash in Sekiro. You can try it, but good luck. I tried to play it that way at first, saying I refuse to parry, and yeah, good luck with that. That's not going to happen. So then I got well, I can't say I ever got good at the parry part, but I said, okay, well, I'll start parrying, and then the game got easier for me because it's built that way. I just don't like games that build into here's how you're going to play this game. So I don't like a lot of Capcom games. Capcom's notorious for that. Here's the thing: if you don't get good at this, it's kind of like a a cock block. You're going to play like this, or you're not going to be able to beat our game. I don't like that. I like when there's some variety, ways you can beat a boss. Maybe there's a cheese way for people that are really stuck who want to just get through the game and enjoy the game and the storyline. I'm always a big fan of that. I don't mind cheese if it makes it more available for people to do. It's like, I think of it like, if people that would say contrast and speed paints are bad, or dry brushing is bad when we hobby. It's like, no, it's a way that somebody can find their satisfaction without having to spend 10,000 hours learning, all the advanced techniques that they may not be ready to learn. And same thing in video games. It's always nice to not spend $70 on a game that puts you at a point where you can't beat it because, your fingers don't work the controls right or something like that, right? All right, here's a question. How does this work? Here's a question. How does this work? Is it like that? No. Like this? No. Like, should I look at the book? Is that what I'm missing? All right, what is this? Which one is this? This is this one. It goes on the side. I'm reading it right. All right. It goes in there. Oh, ta-da. Okay, got it. Modern games are more like a slideshow that you press buttons to advance the show than they are a game you play. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are some like that. What are the big ones that you feel like are like that the most? Because for me, I look at stuff like, good God, how did I just do this? like this, right? Yeah. I look at stuff like Souls games, and those are games that you play. They're like arcade RPGs, right? They're all the best things about arcade games that I used to love growing up. I feel like they are constant motion. Um, you know, if you die in an area, you got to go back. You know, it's they're brutal. It's funny to say, but like arcade games when I was growing up were brutal because they wanted to make you feel like you were if just one more quarter and you could get there, right? Because remember, you know, my whole take on video games is probably a little different because I come from that age where it was like one more quarter. That's how they made their money. They made a game, stuck it in a bunch of machines physically, and put them in arcades before ever making a cent. You know, and so I was always like, oh my god, this is so good, and I love games that do that. That have that feel, that throwback feel for me, and I feel like that's probably why I like Souls games so much because they do. They have that, you know, good God, one more try. Thank God I don't have to put a quarter in. But I mean, I spent $60 on it to begin with, so it's a lot of quarters. Space Marine 2. I don't like Space Marine 2, right? I think that I get what you're saying now when you say that. I know it's a big fan game, but I'm like, man, I don't like it much. It's very on rails slideshow. I totally understand what you mean now when you say Space Marine 2 in particular. I have it and I was hoping so much more for it, and it's not. It's very Capcom, right? It's a Capcom game. It's very on rails. It feels very go this way, do this thing, and if you can't get good at it, then practice and practice and practice and practice again because it's never going to change and you can't go anywhere else. And yeah, I get bummed out about Space Marine 2 because I really want to like it. I know there's a co-op version, and everybody says play co-op, and it changes the whole outlook on it. So that I have not done. I should probably do that. Dark Tide. I mean, Dark Tide's on rails too, but it's a co-op game, right? And has that. I mean, it's always the same, right? You load into the same map. The map's always the same. The map's not always the same, but when you load into that map, it's always the same. So it feels repetitive, but it's fun because you're doing it with either people. You're just doing drop ins, or you're doing it with people you don't know. So it feels more like maybe that's more like an arcade game too, right? You're right for Demon Souls, the re-release. You just turned 18, and it was in your favorite gaming era of PS3. Oh no, the original, where games were making a big jump. You didn't actually like it, and never played another Souls game. Stan, really, really. Well, Souls games are very different than Demon Souls. Demon Souls is a weird one to say is a Souls game, and I know it started it all, but it is not the same. It has the pedigree and looks and feels a lot the same, but it's done a lot different. The original, I played the original right when you did. I walked into a GameStop, believe it or not, and I asked the guy at GameStop, "Hey, what's new?" I was living in my motorhome on the road, and so I was like, I want something that's really cool. I like fantasy stuff, hack and slash games. And he was like, "You got to try this one. It's called Demon Souls. It's from a company nobody's ever heard of. Blah 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 blah." And sure enough, I got it, went back, plugged it in, and immediately fell in love. So I guess it is like it's a you'll know it at first sight, whether or not it's for you kind of a thing maybe. But I knew that right from the beginning. I was like, "Yep, Demon Souls is my jam. This is the kind of game I need forever." And so when Dark Souls came out, I was right there buying that. At 18, you're very short tempered. Oh, I broke some controllers. Not gonna lie, most definitely. I feel like it feels like it has an indentation where the foot's supposed to go. It doesn't go there. Maybe it's not. Maybe it just kind of goes where it fits. This is a cool model. I think it wants me to put it on there right now, though. Yeah. All right. Hulk doke. Here we go. Pray for me. I'm gonna put a little bit on the front of that hoof. I feel like it hits the plastic. All right, I guess we're just going to hope and pray that this is right, that it kind of goes where it's supposed to. How dare that guy acting like Armored Core didn't exist? I didn't like Armored Core until Armored Core 6. And even then, it feels too empty, right? Armored Core, I think, because of the scale, was just always too little to do running between bosses. You have an old Tempest cabinet in your rec room. Tempest was crazy. Tempest is the one where you go around the outside of the hole and shoot stuff that's climbing up out of the hole. Is that Tempest? That game pissed me off. Wasted Mind, what's going on? You found Space Marine 2 so boring. You really wanted to love it, but found it so repetitive. It was very repetitive. Very, very repetitive. Good looking game. Feels good. Feels heavy. I just got tired of it. I got tired of what the, swarm mode games bum me out. It's what I have a problem with Neo, the Neo series, which is kind of a Souls-like. And they're really, 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 really fun until you get to the levels that you have to do that are nothing but horde mode. And they force you into this on rails thing where you have to go through the horde mode thing. If you can't, then you can't get to the next part of the story. And I hated it so much. So I have never finished Neo or Neo 2. And now Neo 3's out. And people are saying it's more open world. So I might give it a try. But if it has horde mode stuff in it, it bums me out. I'm like, I don't want to play this way. Yeah, but Souls games are definitely not for everyone due to difficulty. Yeah, and there's no difficulty setting on a lot of those games. You can't put it on easy mode. Right? Then there's nothing you can really do to make it easy mode if they don't give you like a infinite souls glitch or something like that. Duping souls, and they usually patch that stuff out now that it's not just for PlayStation. El Rondorio, Megalosaurus, is that what this is? Like a huge elk? Knights of the Old Republic. I haven't liked any of the Star Wars games since like X-Wing and TIE Fighter. You remember being a teen and your parents would walk in every once in a while with a rented game. For me, Demon Souls was probably your favorite rented game alongside with BioShock. Oh my God, BioShock was a great game too. I do have to admit I like those that were very good at storytelling. There was a time when the first-person shooter games did fantastic storytelling. Then they just turned into, on-rail shooters and not so great. The Call of Duty era took over. But BioShock was amazing. BioShock, I like Portals, right? The Portals storyline and stuff was really fun and funny. The humor that was in it was good. There were a lot of stuff like that. I forget what so many of them were, but there were some first-person shooters that were really crazy. I like the Silent Hills. I just recently went back and bought some of the Resident Evil remake stuff because they got such good reviews. I haven't played any Resident Evil games in forever because I think Resident Evil 4 was like an on-rail shooter or something from, again, Capcom. Oh my God, Capcom. I have a love-hate with them. They took the arcade thing and never let go of it is the problem. Stuff like Devil May Cry and things like that have such great potential, but I just don't like them as games. They're just too repetitive and they're too arcadey for me. No story, no reason to be playing it again. Do I have plans for a light gray primer? Mix white and dark gray. No, I don't really. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't ever do it. It's a tough one because with primers, I believe they should be dark, right? That's a personal thing. Your primer should be very dark and maybe creep into the midtones a little bit. And when you want a light gray primer, it's better to put something over the top of dark gray, or mix it with white, and then do it as a zenithal coat. I don't do a lot of light priming. We make white for that reason, and taupe is lighter, so you can prime an entire model with taupe for bone and things like that. But I don't really think I'll make a light gray because you can mix white and gray. You can mix them just like normal paints, and they work great. I know not everybody wants to mix, but it's super simple. So. All right. Oh, she's moving. She's leaving. She's shaking and leaving. Cora is done with our nonsense. Banescar says, give Wuchang. That's what I'm playing right now is Wuchang, Fallen Feathers. That's why I started this whole conversation. I'm nearly done with it, I think. I looked online at a guy that does playthroughs and to see where I was in the storyline, and it looks like I'm nearly done. So I'm like, well, that sucks. I hate when the games end, but it feels like it's getting to its climactic end because I just switched over to the world that's burning and on fire. And that always makes me bummed because it took away places. You know, I try to play these games with no knowledge on the first time through, and then it winds up being kind of a bummer if you. Hang on a second, guys. I'm trying to figure out which arm and torso combo I need. They look very similar to me. Is it just a choice of look? I'm gonna do this one. But I try to play through without any prior knowledge. And then when you have things that are like Souls games, where if you don't talk to everybody and do everything, you miss out on a big chunk of the game, that worries me. So times where I get to where it feels like, this. So I missed some stuff, I think, on this playthrough because I didn't go through a walkthrough or look at anybody else's stuff. That's the only thing I really hate about these games is that it's like, well, how, other than going and cheating and reading on the internet, how are you supposed to know this? The story doesn't tell you anything or give you any kind of understanding that if you gave that person the wrong item, it locks you out of a lot of the content in the game. Like, why would you do that in a game? Like, let me play all the content, just make it to where maybe it's harder if I give them the wrong thing. So I got scared for a minute. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm at that point. So I went and watched a video, and I did miss some storyline stuff by either giving somebody something that was wrong or not giving them anything. Or if you played Wu Chang, I killed the kids, or I got the kids killed. If you know what that means, the gang. I got them killed. Didn't know. I was like, I don't know. I was watching a part of the playthrough, and I was like, oh, those kids lived. I was like, they died in my game. They got slaughtered in my game. I was like, oops. So, what makes Proafix different than regular Gorilla Glue? I don't use Gorilla Glue, but I know Gorilla Glue has a lower viscosity and a higher viscosity gel now. So a lot of the CA glues are very similar in that regard, but ours is just formulated to be thin enough to not give you a lot of bulking up on edges, but it will infill. So if you're using an accelerator or something, you can use it to fill gaps. Um, it's just the right viscosity. When it comes to CA glues, that's what it's all about. Hold power, setup time, ours sets up pretty quick, cures very, very quickly. So that if you're putting, plastic together, you're not sitting there holding it for a million minutes, because I use it for everything, plastic, resin, you name it. I think, I don't know. I've got this pike looking thing here that just has a hook. And then we've got one that has like an axe on it. What do we think? I like the hook one, kind of. Yeah. The hook one looks a little more devious. A little more unnerving. Yeah, I'm really enjoying Wuchang Falling Feathers. It's just too easy and too short is the problem for me. Too easy and too short. So I'm anxious to get and at least try the New Game Plus once I get through the storyline to see how the difficulty ramps up. Because like I said, it's just it's a little lacking in the toughness department. I have a love hate with these games, right? Because I don't want to spend 2 days on a boss, but I also don't want to one shot the boss. Notice how I'm a bad model builder because I go through and I just cut everything off the model, uh, and then clean it, and then cry when I don't remember what piece was what. That's my whole thing. Just so you know, I realize this, Chad. I know it. I know this about myself. It's fine. it's fine. We'll be fine. I have head choices too. What are my head choices? We got homeboy with like flame with holes in the middle, and then I like that guy better. This guy's got like a helmet on. The Weaver Courts are part of the whole Spires um, race, spacefaring race. So are all the biomancers, basically, right? They have the ability to not shapeshift, but I guess they mold their bodies out of crazy stuff. Like these guys are all organic material from the woods, so they're this game's wood elves, so to speak. And then 55 and 56. Oh, they have wings. These guys have wings? What? They can fly? Why do they ride elks if you can fly? Seems like cheating. But yeah, I'm excited to get back to Lord of the Fallen, the newer one. And then I have one called, I forget what it's called, the First Berserker Kazan. That's what it is, First Berserker Kazan. I haven't played that yet. It looks a little too anime for me, but I'll give it a shot. Always the big axe. No, the pike looks evil, right? Yeah, the pike looks a little more Hellraiser to me. It's just, yeah, the axe is cool, but the pike I think is the right one. Avian Sneaky Saturday, yes. Prehistoric Irish elk. Gotcha, yeah. You're gonna be super mad if they ruin Witcher 4. What's Black Myth Wukong like? Hmm. Uh, I think it's a harder game than Souls games because of the lack of variation in combat. There's a lot of weapons, but the combat is very straightforward. It feels more Sekiro, less Dark Souls to me. I have to admit I didn't play it very much because it frustrated me because it's so on rails. It is so go this way, go down this path, you can't go anywhere until you beat this boss. There's no branching story. You go here, and if you are stuck on that boss, you're screwed. You can go farm everything that happened before that boss, but that's all you can do. You can't go off into some other part of the world that is more bent for where your skill is. Where Souls games always have a hub, you might have to play linearly till you get to the hub, and then the hub branches off, and it goes to areas that you'll never beat at this level. You have to get bigger levels, and then easier areas and stuff. So Souls games, when they're done right, always feel like there's a direction you can go that doesn't include just having to go back and farm the exact 10 mobs you just killed over and over and over and over and over to level up to beat the boss. And Black Myth Wukong is exactly that. It's fight the same mobs a million times to farm so that you can beat the boss. So I'm not a fan. Very, very linear. It's great looking. It's neat. It was not my style. I would put Black Myth Wukong at the bottom of my Souls like list of best Souls like games. It ranks very high on everything: sound, visuals. The gameplay movement is kind of cool. Some of the abilities are really neat, and then it ranks at the bottom on actually wanting to play it. There's some really bad games that I rank above it, like Steel Rising or whatever that game is. But yeah, like Miniatures Apprentice is saying he really liked Black Myth Wukong. Again, all of this is totally subjective, right? I love the Souls like genre that is closer to Dark Souls. Like Bloodborne is my least favorite, but is most people's favorite Souls like. They even started calling them Soulsborne games because of Bloodborne. And Bloodborne was too easy. They tuned it down to make it more readily available for people, but in doing so, they lost me. I was like, but now that I've gone back and I've played it, now that I've played so many of these games, I like it for all the other nuances it brings. Not necessarily because it's not as hard; it doesn't drive me away from it. Now I just go through and I play it, and it's a game where I'll try to never use the gun. You know, give you more challenges. Play with a bad weapon is the way I treat Bloodborne. And I'll go back and play Black Myth probably at some point just to see if I can get back to where it feels like it's a better game than I thought it was initially. But there's the problem: is that so many other games come out. Lords of the Fallen was a bad game, and then they made Lords of the Fallen, and just called it Lords of the Fallen again. But it's the newer version. The first one was like in the teens, and this one came out in 23 or something like that. And the second one is really good, and it was really good when it came out, but it had a bunch of problems, glitchy, would crash, so I stopped playing it, and then they redid it, and now I want to go back and play it. Like they made a huge update to it and fixed a lot of stuff. So it's cool that a studio stood behind their stuff, and supposedly now it's really great. So I feel like going back and playing that one. I just love those games. They're all very similar, so I understand that you gotta like them before any of them are gonna make sense. Although I will say Liza P was really good, if just as a game. Even if you don't like Souls games, the story was really cool. The whole Geppetto and Pinocchio kind of thing and Puppet Land and the way the monsters were done, I thought was a really neat take on the narrative of like Souls games because it put an actual story face forward that when you hit some of the endings you were like, oh no, really? Some really cool Easter eggs in Liza P. So it's worth playing through. But it is at its heart a Souls like game. It still plays the same. It still gets really frustrating with some of the bosses that feel like, they're uh, gatekeeping you having to go and play the game more before you can beat them. But it's not as brutal as most of the direct Souls games. Like I think Dark Souls 3 is much worse than Liza P as far as difficulty. So if you've played those, hey mouth, you're not playing Night Rain. Night Rain doesn't really intrigue me. The multiplayer aspect was never what I was missing from Dark Souls. I like PvP, and Dark Souls, Elden Ring slash PvP has always been, you know, half butt at best, one cheek at best, because it just gets to the point to where people, um, get to meta builds and you because of the level matching, it doesn't force level matching in Souls games for PvP. That a lot of times the PvP tries to lock in at like I don't remember. I want to say it used to be no higher than level 120, but then the bulk of the people playing started, doing like full on gank builds and not going for PvP. They just wanted to go in and do these big meta builds and bonk you with silliness. So that became not fun. And then you get the kids that are like level, 300 that are trying to do PvP. And there's nobody else at level 300 except the other kids that are trying to do PvP by not PvPing. They just want to kill you. Dark Souls Remastered is great. It's great. I have both. I have the first one on Steam. I don't know why when you own the first one on Steam, they didn't just give you the remaster. You had to buy it again, I think. I might have got a discount or something, but I have both now, Dark Souls and Dark Souls Remastered. And then I have Dark Souls 2, the Prepare to Die edition or whatever it's called, or whatever, whichever one it is. I don't know. They've remastered them multiple times. Dark Souls 2 is the only one that people really bitch about a lot because it was made by a different studio, or it was made by like the B team of FromSoft because the main studio was maybe making Sekiro at that point or Bloodborne. No, they were making Bloodborne at that point. And so the people that really were the masterminds behind Dark Souls and Demon Souls didn't work on Dark Souls 2. I still think it's a brilliant game. I never knew any of that when I was playing it through its original playthrough, and so I loved it. It is by far not my favorite. It's probably my least favorite of the series, but it's still worth playing. Like I said, I go back and play them all. The Dark Souls franchise would probably be the sole reason I would ever keep an old computer in working order if we got to a point where technology wouldn't play those old games. That would be like my point of reference. I was like, will it play Dark Souls? If not, I have to keep a computer around that will. They're just too good. But I am mad. I will forever be salty that Demon Souls never gets a PC port. Like, what are you doing, Sony? Quit it. And I don't think there's a way. Is anybody out there know? Is there a way to get like a emulator for PS5 games on the PC? I don't think so, right? because I would love to play the Demon Souls remake. I just want to see the Thunder God, right? The big manta ray in the sky. I just want to do that with good graphics. Some neat stuff in Demon Souls. I just want to have that feeling again, man. That game was the first of its kind to put that visceral fear of video games in me. Like there was times where I really wanted to play, but I refused to. There's no game that ever did that to me before that. Because losing your progress and having to go back and kill all the enemies along the way to get your progress back was just something that was so brutal in that game. It made you sit at the respawn point and really evaluate your life choices before you went back and tried to fight those guys again if you lost a lot of souls. And the original Demon Souls was brutal because it didn't give you a lot of save points. It put you back at the beginning of the level. There was no save points. There was only like one at the later levels that wasn't at the beginning. That was like halfway through. I think in the remake they made it more like bonfires, which is cool. But yeah, holy cow, what a great and horrible feeling. It made you realize how much of a masochist you had to be to really enjoy video games like that. What is a weird or unique color to use as a base color for orc skin? Weird or unique? Huh. Great question. I feel like what would feel weird or unique would be like red oxide under green. I don't have our army man here. It's at the studio. But if you remember me painting our green army man during the challenge for February, um, I did red oxide underneath the camo greens. And camo greens, why not being the same as like maybe the yellowish green you want to use for all your orcs? The red underneath is great. Red and green being complementary colors and give you kind of a brown undertone works great for orc skin. So red, purple is also great. But I feel like everybody knows that purple's my answer, so I try not to answer purple all the time, just so I'm not a broken record. But purple, royal purple, dark purple, always good, always the right choice. Yeah. Other than that, dark blue works. Anything in that kind of cool nature of blues would work. Magentas, again, falling into the reds and doing like dark hot pink over the top of purple can work really well. I did, good gosh, does anybody remember how I was doing all my orcs? My orcs were purple, magenta, bright yellow, and then green transparent over the top, is how I did all my orcs for 40K. So I airbrushed everything with a base of dark purple. And then over the top of that, I believe I did a magenta or dark magenta. And then like golden yellow over the top of that, or warm yellow over the top of that as a highlight. And then green transparent over the top of all of that. It worked like a champ because it gives you so many neat colors. But that's more of an involved underpainting, and you're filtering your final green on it. So you've seen me paint that way probably. It's a cool way to paint, but it's a very specific way of getting a finish that's going to look a particular way. It's harder when you underpaint like that to then work a bunch of layers over the top of it, right? Because you've got, when you do your finer filter to get the color of green, let's say on an orc, you now have got what looks like 5 or 6 layers of color underneath that green because of the underpaint, and so it makes it tougher to layer a bunch of colors on top. You're kind of stuck to the color you get. So if you're not confident in it, haven't done it before, may not be the best way to go. I want to get some paint on this guy, so we're going to build him, and we are going to try to get some paint on him. All this talk about color. Take a break from Alan Wake 2 to pop over to stream and start to put some paint down on your April model. Awesome. Alan Wake. That's a video game, yeah? What is it? Is it a... I've heard of it. Is it like an adventure? Like a puzzle adventure? Alan Wake? I don't think I've ever played it. These are old games, right? Horror. Oh, okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. Is it like Lovecraftian style horror? Conzilla, your life loves Alan Wake. I'm assuming it's good storytelling. I've heard about it for years, or at least I feel like I have. It. I know I've looked at it, which is why I probably it's one of those kind of games that I'm not a really big fan of, like point and click horror game or shooter or something like that. I don't know. Every now and then I get back to some point and click adventure, where you like click on the side of the screen and your avatar walks over to the side of the screen and changes to another place, kind of like some of the old Resident Evils. I try them every now and then, modern versions of them, and I never really leave feeling satisfied. So, non-linear story survival horror, cool. I always have a dream that I'll find a game that Jen would like to play or know about. But then she walks into my room all the time, and because of my big monitor spread that I have, she always walks in and goes, "Oh my god, it's making me sick. Look at that!" Like as you move around the screen and stuff. She's not built for video games. She does word uh, crosswords, and I want you guys to take this to heart. You know how the whole birds are not real; they're all robots that are like scanning devices, surveillance devices, right? The crossword puzzle is the Illuminati's communication method. You know how you know? Because there's never a six across. Go look. Go look. Introduce Jen to Stardew Valley. That's how you got your wife into gaming. I think Gabe and like Shelby. I think Stardew Valley is what I think even Shannon, their mom, plays Stardew Valley. Is it just like it's like a farming simulator that maybe do you fight creatures in it, but it's like very fun. I always get it mixed up with Terraria. Mozilla and I spent probably 100 plus hours coming up with conspiracy theories while we tried to solve blueprints puzzles. Jen and I are I'm always gigging her. I'm like, yep, it's a conspiracy. I always walk by when she's doing a crossword puzzle. What's six across? She goes, there isn't one. All the time. Every now and then there'll be a six across, but I don't know why, and I want to know why six across is such a rarity on crossword puzzles. There's something there, guys. It's something there. If you ever run into aliens, just start asking about six across. That might be like their kryptonite. Get out of jail free pass for you if you start just spamming six across. Six across is when they send the message. Yes, the you have to look really hard at the crossword puzzles with six across on them because that's when the communicating is happening. I'm completely joking, by the way. If you're new here, this is not the conspiracy channel you're looking for. You got a lot of horizontal details across here, like fingers and wraps and things like that that have a mold line going right through them. It's always the problem with stuff like pole arms, right? Is that the seam is going to go top to bottom on the entire shape, and it's going to go right across any of the leather wraps, the fingers, and all that stuff. Plasma guns, if you like Warhammer and you're doing plasma marines, the plasma coils always have a seam right through the middle of them, make it a real pain in the ass to clean. All right, who's got the best weekend plan? I know you're not all just sitting around watching me all weekend. What do you got going on tonight? Anything fun? Anything fun going on? Got your dancing shoes ready? I think I just cleaned all the pieces. What? Excite. 8-bit cozy family game. There's some monsters you can fight, tons of villagers you can interact with, or you can just farm and build your house. Yeah. I feel like they've talked about it a lot. Like Shelby would always talk about whatever thing she was planting. I just planted a bunch of asparagus or whatever. I don't know if they have asparagus in the game. Okay, I'm at a loss. What's going on here? Oh, that's upside down. Aha! Oh, that's the wings. He has like little budding wings on his back. I get it now. Painting a 1/6 scale CA3D mermaid. Awesome. CA3D stuff, he does really great job on so much of what he does. So I'm assuming that's going to be a great sculpt to paint. You work all day tomorrow, Commando Ken? Are you when you work on Sundays? Do you get? Are you immediately back on Monday, and then you get like Thursday, Friday? Are you like my team? We switched to a 4-day work week this year at Monument. So I haven't told Jen yet, but I may. We've thrown it to Chris, so you guys need to gig Chris, right? That we've told Chris that there's a world where he could have a 4-day work week, and that Jen would come back on the stream on Fridays. I have not run that past either one of them, so well, I told Chris that might be a possibility, but that I had talked to Jen. I have not told Jen, so I don't know if that's a possibility or not. But would you guys be into that? You're watching a man scrape plastic. It doesn't get any better than this. I just want you to have you people know. Watching a man scrape plastic is everything that you can dream up that's good just listening to that sentence. Painting skinks for Warhammer Old World. Nice. Paint Liquor's always pro more Jen. I knew you guys wouldn't be mad. 3D printing a chainsword, like a life-size chainsword, miniature apprentice, and finishing up a diorama. I want to hope you're printing a life-size chainsword. I'm going to go with that no matter what you say. Designing UFOs for your tabletop XCOM game. El Rondorio, nice. Excite. Wirehead, take it easy. Girlfriend's home and she wants food. Barbecue looking good. Jen and I went out to dinner last night and she threw out barbecue, but I just got back from that Nashville trip and I was kind of barbecued out. So we went out to a place called, I forget what it's called, the Orchard here in town that just has kind of upscale bar food. It was pretty good. I got a pepperoni pizza that had honey and jalapenos on it. Not hot honey, just honey. It's a little weird. It's much better day 2 after it's been sitting in the fridge. Last night, the honey under heat gets really runny and you lose a lot of the flavor. It sits in the fridge and it comes back. Your objective is to learn by building a Warhammer 40k Drukhari 2,000 points. You started painting 2 years ago, Mert. At this moment, I could be at tabletop. Any advice on what you should do to focus to improve to display quality painting? Great question. The journey is always different for everybody, right? This is a question we get asked all the time on how to go from just getting comfortable with keeping the paint in the right places, right? Because when we really simplify painting is more of a right amount of paint in the right place is the way I say it. And so staying in the lines, treating it like a 3-dimensional coloring book. And once you get good at feeling confident with color goes where it goes and you know how to control the brush, then you start doing things like shadows, highlights, building volume and value is the way we talk about it. And that's really your journey, your entire journey to display painting from start to, if that's the in-game, so to speak, is dealing with representing light on your model, like making your model feel like it's in a realistic environment, even when it's just on a black base. You know, we've got a elk on a black base, right? And so when we have this elk sitting here and you know, you don't have the environment around it, it's just your environment, right? You could build a diorama and you can build trees around it, whatever, but you need to focus on that part of the journey that is making this elk look like it's in an environment when you can't see the environment. And that's all done through light. And so getting used to how does light reflect on different surfaces, that will guide you on how to highlight and shade certain surfaces so that they look like the material they're made out of. Skin looks different than metal, looks different from plastic, looks different from cloth, looks different. All cloth looks different, or can. So it's kind of getting used to moving away from the thought that color controls everything and understanding that brightness, darkness, contrast give you what we call volumes, and volumes are allowing you to identify the shape, finding the curves and the dimension to it, bringing some things to the foreground and putting other things into the background. That's painting at all levels. That's true on canvas as well as on miniature. That's where your journey starts. Now, that's a very big, broad spectrum of things because there's so many different techniques you're going to learn along the way that add to that. But that's your focus, is start looking how to bring your shadows and highlights onto the model in a very, well, I'm not going to say in a very realistic way because not everybody wants their model to look realistic, but in a way that brings more contrast and more focus to the model, because your tabletop models start out feeling a little flat, meaning that they don't have the dimension, they don't have the pop that a display quality model does, and that pop comes from contrast and value, and so that's where you start. Start building your highlights better. Obviously, you'll want to focus on smooth blending if you like that style, but you don't have to do completely smooth blending to be a professional display painter. You can have a very hack and slash texture way of painting. It's all up to you. That becomes your style. So you're currently edge highlighting rich gold with bright gold. Nice. Nothing wrong with that. Good combo. You would prefer gin every day, but we would prefer gin. I'm not even going to say that out loud. That's bad karma. Chris may be watching. Chris is the man. Okay, so, I still have to put the pelvis on this. So it has a ball. Oh, no. It has a ball joint for the pelvis. That's bad. That means that there's things I can do here that I need to have more information before I do. Oh, no. Because if there's a ball joint on this, it means that I can kind of turn his torso in different ways. Okay. Well, then we'll build the lower body apart from it. It says put it together, but whenever I see a ball joint on a torso, I'm reluctant to do that. I'm more prone to say, hey, we need to take a step back and look and see how that's going to look in the final model. Should we put it in a particular direction, one versus the other or something? What's going on here? How's this leg? How does leg work? Oh, I see. Like that. Wow, that's a very wide stance. I guess this elk is very, very wide too, huh? That's very bow-legged Jones, though. I'm not gonna lie. Am I doing this right? Yep. All right. Okie doke. Always dry fit your models, right? There are so many times where instructions have led me astray, and you're feeling like oh yeah, I'm following the instructions. Yep. And then the instructions aren't quite what you need them to be at the end. And you wind up putting it together a little bit wrong. Okay, so I'm already wrong here. I dry fitted and everything. And okay, that makes more sense. Ta-da, see, that's the reason. The picture is very, very hard to figure out how the legs go together. Now, now that you get it right, it feels a lot more like it's supposed to be this side. Like so. Yep, that fit together perfect. Fuel crisis makes plastic figure hit an all-time high. Buy 3D printers and juice while you still can. I mean, everything that is done from plastics is going to wind up, if that's the case, you know, is going to get hit. I don't know that I would run out and invest everything in 3D printing just because plastic kits are supposedly more expensive. I have not seen that. What have you seen in plastic kits that has gone skyrocketing high? I've been buying a couple of kits here recently, and none of them have seen any sort of a price change over what they would have been a month ago, 2 months ago. Everything's going to see price rises due to fuel prices, right? When fuel goes up, everything that gets sent by transport, right? So that I could see, right? When you're doing a 3D printer and resin, you still got to pay more for the 3D printer to get to you, but you only need it once. Pay more for the resin, but you can order it in bulk once. And then the STL, you don't have to pay to get delivered, right? So there's a reason for that. But I just don't like relying on resin for all my models, because no matter how strong they make the resin and things like that, it's still brittle over time. It still sags under heat. There's just no way to stop some of what is bad about resin that plastic takes care of. There's a reason why you don't use or see resins making things in the real world that are of high use, right? It has to go to HIPs. It has to go to high impact polystyrenes and plastics and things like that. That's why plastics exist. Resin was there before plastics. And there's a reason why plastics was the modernized version of it. So resin is a cool thing for us to use to make miniatures much less expensive, but it still lacks all the problems of resin, right? That, it cures under heat. And as soon as you apply heat, like we live in Arizona, and resin models can be the bane of your existence, because if you put them in your bag and put them in the backseat of your car and run into the grocery store real quick, you could come out and all your resin models are just completely bent over 90 degrees. So it's pretty crazy. You put honey on your grilled cheese. That sounds pretty good, actually. Life-size chainsaw, nice. And it actually works with a motor in it. Oh, that's awesome. Kalini, good to see you, man. Is this Chris? It is. Chris, what's going on, man? You're fully psyched it's the plastic scraping scream and not the painting stream. How you doing, Chris? You miss watching Shelby harass Jordan. Shelby's good at harassing everybody. She was back at Adepticon. Shelby still comes around and helps out. She contracted with us at Adepticon to be part of the show. That was a lot of fun. It was great to have her there. She did steal Jen and mine's goodies, though. So there's a world where that makes her not okay. I'm just gonna say that out loud. That's not okay. That's not what you do. It's not how friends treat friends. Schlebby. All right, this is one where I got to figure this out. What does this do? Does this go here? Oh, I have no idea what this does. How's this look at the end? It fans out behind the leg, so it has this little key in it that doesn't really prevent it from rotating. So I'm gonna have to do it and kind of do it and guess. Good to hear it, Chris. Good to see you. Back to sculpting your own then, like we used to. Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually doing a sculpt. I should bring the sculpt out and show you what I got going on. It's in a super wonky looking state right now because I don't have all of the musculature bulked up on it yet, but I did some teeth. The mouth and everything is crazy. But I have a sculpt that I've been working on. It is here at the house. I've been doing it with Jen. Jen did a sculpt. She moved on. She finished her sculpt too quick and started painting it. So she left me in the dust as far as that goes. So I haven't been working on it as much because I've been traveling. But now that I'm home, I need to get back to working on that sculpt. Big monster that I'm excited to get done and be able to paint on stream. Stuff like this, I just kind of have to press it in there and just wait for it to kind of self-center and hope it's right. Feels right. I don't know. It's very spindly to deal with here, so I'm just going to kind of hold it real quick. Can you have Schlebby Fridays? Probably not. She has a life she's leaving. Schlebby's trying to get married. Belial, this is called a Gimred Knight or Gimred Knight. I don't know the pronunciation, from Conquest Weaver Quartz. They are kind of I will say that they are their version of wood elves, but they're not elves. They are a spacefaring race in a fantasy game, which I think is rad as hell that that's the narrative. um, a race of spacefaring aliens that wound up on this planet inhabited by dwarves and medieval style humans and things like that. They showed up on their ships because they were fleeing a world that was taken over by their mortal enemies. And so but they use biomancy, the whole thing with the I don't remember what the race is called, but the first army that we got was called Spires, and the spires use biomancy, so they can collect material from the environment around them, like stone and flesh. The spires use just big flesh crafting, and form their constructs. These kind of not really mindless, but they're drones, right? So kind of like a hive mind drone situation, and they make drones to do combat, and the leaders are the big nasties. And this is part of that. There's a section of them called the Weaver Courts, and the Weaver Courts prefer to use natural objects like trees and animals and things like that rather than the flesh of dead corpses to build their constructs. So they feel like wood elves because of that. The legs don't really have a slot they fit in, so it's just kind of press and pray, I think. Like there's not even like there's not much of a way to even know what hits here, so I'm just going to wing it again. See if we can get close enough. It's like his butt bone. Have I done all the stuff I need to here before I stick him down? Yes. Yeah. Some flat spots on the inner thigh that we're going to hope hit the model. Chris, the MAA next year is going to be ridiculous. We already have got people, it's off the charts. We haven't even announced anything new to the public yet, but the way it's all moving right now, it's going to be absolutely incredible. The amount of artists and the outpouring of support after this year's Adepticon is fantastic. So I'm super, super excited. Super excited. Do I have an idea for my monthly challenge model? I'm not doing a duel this month. I don't typically take part in them. Sometimes I do. I did the Army Man one because I was excited about that one. This is a Gym Red Knight. It's a big elk with a skinny dude on it, a skinny knight sitting on it. Now it tells you to put the torso on the legs and all that stuff. The knight is really cool. It's a very whimsical skinny leg insect kind of thing, right? They have a very insect vibe going on with this whole faction. It said put the torso on there, but I didn't want to do that because I might, I can come up with a much cooler pose than just, knight sits forward. If you just have the torso forward is what they show in the picture, it's very dull. So we might be able to do some stuff because the arms are ball socketed too. So we may be able to have him turn to the side a little bit. We'll see. We got to figure all this out. This is the hardest part, right? Posing your model. I'm doing this for a warband for the First Blood game that they do, which is a skirmish game, and I can only have one. Well, I can have more, but they're very expensive, so I'm only taking one of these guys. So at that point, I want to make sure that I do a cool pose for the one that I'm going to have. Droidica, you just got back into painting? Had to stop due to health? Oh, sorry to hear about that, but glad you're back. Nice. Nice. Yeah, we haven't seen you in a while. You used to come around. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully the health issues that were keeping you from painting are fixing up. Ossiarch Meat Reapers. Kind of, yeah. That's a good way to put it, right? Ossiarch Meat Reapers. That's gross and great all at the same time, I think. We're just going to have to guess at arm direction. I kind of want it up and at an angle a little bit. Not too much. Feels sort of natural. Does your glue work well on 3D printer resin? 100%. 100%. Everything you're going to glue together, you can use our glue for. Obviously, if you're gluing wood together, you're going to use a lot. I would say you should use wood glue, but it will glue wood. It's just anything that's super porous, you're going to use a lot of the wood. The writer for the Canadian Attack Moose, yes. Did Schlebby find a guy that's cooler than his refrigerator? Yes. Then yes, or her. I don't remember what it was, but yes, yes, she's been dating for a while. Was it Adepticon again this year? And even the preview event was. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, it was great. Love it. Love it. We had a blast. It was way more than I would have ever asked for. Uh, Tremendous turnout. Uh, just great all around. Was super pleased with the way it turned out. I guess I'm just gonna have to guess on this. Like I don't want him leaning too far forward, right? But because the elk is at my angle for the camera is going to be different for you guys looking at it than for me. But you know I need to see how the head fits on here. I guess does the head have a ball socket? I think it does. No, it doesn't. What's going on here? I don't know what I'm looking at. That doesn't seem. That's not the right piece. That can't possibly be the correct back of the head for this guy. Did they tell me wrong or did I get it wrong? I may have seen the wrong thing here. Which head did I use? Oh yeah, I read it wrong. I can't blame anybody except myself. We're not done scraping plastic yet, folks. Back at it. Guess we can turn Doggo Cam off. She's abandoned us. I don't even know where she is. You're being insanely productive around your house. Somewhat civil, fixed up so much. Going to be busy tomorrow moving stuff to take advantage. Moving stuff to take advantage of what? Are you redecorating? Inquiring minds want to know. I like a good redecorating tale. I'm not much of a redecorator. Every now and then we add stuff like this studio, this little stream setup in my office was cool to add, but didn't really. All it did was take up space. It wasn't like it was a much of a new look other than in the one room. Let's see if this does what it's supposed to do. I don't understand this really. Does it go here? Aha. Oh, and it does give kind of a ball joint. I see what's going on. When it fits, it makes sense. Who knew? You have 4 drawers with broken stays. A lazy Susan you could not use due to the previous owner's dishwasher install. Fix the stays, pulls, and put a cut in the cabinet and hinged it. Oh, nice. So kitchen remodel stuff. So now you can move stuff around to actually make use of the cool things you were hoping to have in the first place. That's cool. I can dig it. This is one of the first homes I've lived in a long time that because we bought it as a, I don't know what you'd call it, a higher end flip, I guess. They took an old historic home and they did all the work, right? They redid all the electric and plumbing and everything, put an addition on it. and all that stuff. So it was a house where when Jen and I walked in, we were like, this is actually where we're at. You know, this is how we would have done this. Now here's the problem. Is this much? Oh, it is kind of enough of a ball joint that I can't turn it excessively, but oh, this is a good design actually. They do allow you to the neck can move without exposing too much of the angle of the plastic and make it look crappy, right? It's not a real ball joint. It has a dish to it, but the high collar on the armor makes it to where you can rotate the head around a little bit and it'll lift up out of there without causing too much of a problem for the paint. Okay. Well, then I'm going to glue this on in the way I want it because I think I'll paint him with the focus being on kind of this side, right? So I want to turn his torso a little bit towards us and the head a little bit back towards the front, I think. So let's do that. I keep saying I think. You can tell I'm really sure about this, chat. So this might be a oops moment, but I'm gonna do it anyway. That opens him up this way a little bit, right? So we're not just looking at him sidelong. Turn his chest just, what is that? Maybe 15 degrees, 20 degrees towards us, as opposed to just straight forward. I always try to keep things out of pure profile. Miniatures, especially when they're on mounts, if they're just in pure profile, it gets a little flat looking, right? Because it's just too linear. I like it because when you're riding a horse, yeah, you might be tucked in and doing that, but when you're in a miniature thing, giving it some scale, like shield out, you know, arm out like this, chest turned a little bit, you know, you can see turned a little bit out of the center line, makes for a better look, in my opinion. Don't get too crazy with it because you got to think in terms of what the body can actually turn to look like. But that works from the back too. Makes it a little bit more interesting from every angle. Whereas the elk itself is pretty much dead center line. The head's not out of line or anything. The head's not like cocked. It's pretty straight. So any little thing you can do helps. Now I have pointy hand, and let's see if pointy hand does what I want it to do. So if I can do pointy hand kind of forward. Somewhat civil. You have a corner of the living room? Yeah. It's funny because, you know, we've been streaming for well over 10 years. And it's odd because I haven't had a home painting setup in probably 7 or 8 of those since we came out with Procryl as a company. I have not had a place at my house really, which is so weird to think about. I think like that. What does that look like? Does that look all right? That looks all right. I can't separate it too much or it looks like he's pointing at the sky, but I think this kind of works. Maybe I can swing his elbow a little bit. Get a little bit more height out of the arm. Oh, that works good. Swing the elbow out a little bit. Recovering from a divorce. Hate to hear that. Used to have a whole room. Yeah. You know what, though? Hopefully, you can say that it was for all the right reasons. And that now, regardless of nestling into less space and all that stuff, that you can be better for it. That's my hope for you, at least. Been through that. Been there, done that. Didn't even get a t-shirt. All right, so that puts him in kind of a lunging mode. And then we can have the head looking out towards the finger is the ideal here. That's what really brings the motion. So it keeps the head in line with the rest of the body, and we're moving the torso out of line to give it some motion. And I like when companies give you the option. So many companies don't. GW is so kind of ratified into their world being all about the pose they give you. And so there's less opportunity to do cool, fun stuff. So I'm happy with that. I think it's okay. There's a little bit of the edge on the neck that shows. I'm okay with that though. I'm okay with that. It's just a little bit down. You can kind of see if you can focus in there. A little bit of the edge of the slot of the neck shows, but with the way we paint it, we'll paint it with a dark shadow in there. It won't make a difference. I think it's fine. And now we have just a little bit of extra motion to the rider that brings some life into it rather than just being stagnant and straightforward. Easy stuff. Okay, now I got to figure out which of these. These are the parts I was cutting off that I said, watch me gripe and complain, because I can guarantee you I'm not going to have any idea which of these shoulder plates goes on which shoulder when we get here. And here we are, chat. Here we are. I'm hoping these are the same. That would make this really easy if these were literally, oh, I would guarantee they're not. I guarantee they're like this, probably, right? It has like a tiny hole that it's supposed to key into. But of course, they don't key in very well, slot in very well. So I'm going to say that one's definitely for the other shoulder. And we're going to hope that this one does better over here. Yep, that was the way. All right, cool. Conquest, the designers do a really great job of making sure that the models have got parts that do a good job of overlapping to cover up some of the spots where you have join lines, mold lines. They're not too crazy. They don't make it to where you have tons of overlap and too many layers to paint, because that can get to be a real bummer too. But they do a good job. I've had models where I'm like, oh God, this is going to really suck. And then you get it together and you're like, wow, these designers really knew what they were doing. So I'm always wind up giving kudos to the team over there. Oh no, did the arm come off? No arm. No. I moved it around too much, sticking it on there. With 5 kids, you're never okay. Yeah, Chris, man, a lot of these conquest models are just superlative. Their designs have been really good. Not that the older ones weren't. I think the plastic limited some of the designs in the original stuff. It was never something I looked at. You know, I've said it multiple times, and now I own every army, just as a personal interest. I have no skin in the game. I don't, you know, I've become, after doing this, I've become very friendly with some of the Conquest team, but it was never a planned thing. I was just like, wow, the Yoroni, the Japanese Oni inspired faction called Yoroni, uh, are the ones that did it for me. They're just amazing sculpts, and just a neat, fun looking faction. And it all started with a model that I don't have here at the house, unfortunately, but it's the Jorogumo or Jorogumo, the big spider. I don't think I have one here. It's a huge tarantula with uh, wow, the word's escaping me. What are they called? The women with women on the back and playing instruments and reading from scrolls. It's just an amazing piece. If you weren't knee deep in painting an army for a friend, you'd be plotting your own first army, you'd be doing conquest. With the new rules for First Blood, I think they've made it more approachable than ever because, you can use the same models for the main big war game in a skirmish battle game, and you only need, I think my Uroni army only has 6 models for First Blood. It might have 8, right? But it's kind of like, like Kill Team esque in that skirmish line where you don't have to have a whole lot. And you can do big models. You can even do the monsters, right? That was the part that got me. Is it? Well, that's one of the reasons I have such a low model count in my armies too. Is because I'm taking the monsters. You can take one big guy, and their big monsters are huge. You've seen them. You've seen them on stream. Excuse me. But yeah, you can take one of the giants. You did all the big monsters. The monstrous creatures are all the same huge size. They're like night titans, and you can take that size. You can take one in each skirmish list, and it's kind of like a mini game inside of it because they're so hard to get rid of. So I just made a bunch of lists that all have a big monster in them, and then they give me a couple of these kind of guys that are cavalry size models, and then the normal models are still nice. The scale of the game is pretty good. There's some weird, I don't want to call it creep, but between factions, like the Weaver Courts and the Spires are a little bit taller anyway, lankier and taller. So it gives some racial quality between them all, which I think is really cool. They're just a lot of fun. All right. Now we paint. Now we paint. I'm going to let the glue dry a little bit on that arm before I start priming. Geisha. Yeah, the geishas. Yes, there's like 3 geishas on the back of a tarantula that's super huge. It's awesome. So I feel like I'm cutting off my face as I do this. So I apologize for that. When I'm standing and versus slouching, you're losing me a little bit. Do I have a series of videos for beginning modeling and painting? Yes. Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, we have a lot. As a matter of fact, the website this week comes out with some change information on it that will have what we call the life of a mini. So we're launching that on Monday on monumenthobbies.com. The EU site will catch up, but it'll be on the main monumenthobbies.com site, and you'll be able to find the life of a mini, and it'll go through building, priming, painting, basing, and it has some videos for each of those, and we'll continue to fill those out from the YouTube channel with more of those basic kind of videos over time, which should be really good. Your 50-ish models for I have Lumineth too, right? And yeah, it's like 60 models plus, right? It's crazy. Even when you take the big dude on the whatever the hell that thing is, hippogriff or whatever it is. Bully Teeth, ahoy! I want to say thanks to you personally for your dedication to making my hobby so much more fun. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for thanking me. I appreciate you. Soothe your savage soul and took your mind off things. Painting can do that, man. It's one of those things that in the worst of times you can fall back into it, and it's always waiting for you. Your good hobbies are like that. They're always like, well, we'll be here when you need us, and painting models is one of those. And God knows we probably, unless you throw them away during different times of your life, you probably have enough models where you can, fall back into it and build a model and paint it without having to spend any money too, as long as it hadn't been 10 years and all your paint's dried up. Belial, I have like 100 minis to paint. Speaking of which, a whole Dark Angels army to finish up and a whole Tyranid army. You're going to be busy for a while. Yeah. Well, I went nuts, right? I got each and every single one of the Conquest armies. We literally have all of the armies now. There's not an army we don't have. And now, on the Wadroon, which is the army I said never buy, the Orcs, I only have enough for the First Blood, and I only have the models I like, which is really cool. I think that that's even better why First Blood works, because you can use all the models, and you can be like, I don't like half of that faction, but I like these, and you put it together that way, which is really cool. And I don't even know that I'll ever pay or play. I just know that I like to have that kind of finished skirmish, finished army in a case. It always just makes me feel good. I love it. Yeah, the T-Rex we got. It's awesome. I just don't want to build it. I think it's resin. Somewhat civil. Yeah, the models that I like, like the Weaver Courts, I wanted to have these guys. And so you can take one of these guys. And then because the infantry units come in blocks of 12 when you buy them as a unit. But in the game, you buy them in blocks of 4. So one stand, right? Let me see if I have one. Yeah, I do. So you get like one skirmish stand like this worth of them. You don't use these in First Blood. You just use the round bases, right? Which is why they do this. So you can pull them out and you use just the individual skirmish style. You don't have to use the square bases. But in the Last Army Unit Kings, the larger game, it comes with 3 stands per unit of infantry, so you get 12 models. So, and there are 4 individual sculpts on most of them, and then repeats the 4 individual sculpts. And you can do arm and head swaps to make them look variations, but generally it looks like 4 sculpts. And so in First Blood, you buy it by 4 sculpts. And you can buy multiples, but you can only really add them on in singles, and you pay for the singles. And the way it's pointed out, it really is neat. It kind of, let's see, let's talk about other games. Like in what game can we look at? Some games when you buy a unit, like I don't know if this is true of Space Marines anymore, but like so let's say you buy a unit of 5 Terminators and it costs 250 points. So it makes it feel like each of those is 50 points apiece for the Terminators. But then you can add a Terminator for 40 points. You know how that goes? So sometimes it incentivizes you to build bigger, like build up to 6 or 7 or 8 Terminators rather than doing 2 blocks of 5. So you only do 1 unit. Some games are built that way because their mentality is we want to sell you the box of 5, and then GW wants to sell you another box of 5, but you're adding 1 or 2 of them in because it's more efficient in the game to add 1s and 2s to big blocks than to buy multiple blocks. I don't know if that's their reasoning behind it, but it seems that way from a math standpoint. This game is different. This game incentivizes you to try new units, right, rather than bulk up more of the units. So like a unit of 4 guys might be 80 points, and so you think they're 20 points apiece. But when you add a single, it'll be 25 or 30 points, which makes it ineffective to add because it's cheaper to add another block of a different kind of unit. You can't add new blocks of the same thing. You can't duplicate the same unit multiple times in First Blood, which is really cool. So it keeps it fresh because you're using fewer of each model type, but it wants you to use more model types, which I think is really cool because it puts you in that mindset of I get to use the cool stuff. You don't have to worry about running in the game up to a meta list that's 22 of the same model because that model is really tough. You just can't do that, right? At least I don't think you can. You're limited in what you can buy of each one unit of each, and they max out at like 12 models, I think, or it might max out at even lower than that. So it's pretty cool. Derek Vaughn, this is called a Gimred Knight or a Gimred Knight from Conquest. For First Blood, it is a big elk rider from the faction called Weaver Courts. And they come in a unit of 3. They are selling for First Blood. I'm like their advertiser now. I said I don't have any skin in the game, which I don't. I just love the game. I want more people to play it. But they're selling First Blood skirmish kits where you don't have to buy the individuals, but you can. The nice thing is, like I said, you can buy like an army for the big game, but then take the same units out and do them one by one for the skirmish, which I think is really cool. Very cool. All right, let's paint. Let's do some painting. We're a painting stream. We're actually a talk nonsense stream, but sometimes we paint. Sometimes we paint. Our scraping tool is amazing. I wish I could have found mine today. I would have used the crap out of it, but I could only find my knife. I don't know where it is. Oh, I'm going to feel really stupid if it's in my brush jar. No, it's not. I may not have unpacked my scraping knife yet because I haven't built a lot of models here. I'm still just using my master's airbrush. I have an Iwata. I have my HPCS here too. Right? I have my Iwata. I haven't ever put paint in this Iwata. It's brand freaking new. Because I've been so impressed with this crappy little masters that I got with the compressor. I only wanted the compressor, but it was cheaper to buy the compressor with the brush. So we have the brush too. And I've been blown away. So I'm going to use it until this one dies is what we're going to do. Right? Its ergonomics aren't as great. I mean, the button's too close to the cup. The cup's welded on. It has some issues, but it's good. It's good. It's been good. I think black. I think we start with black. That Masters G233, is that decent? Kriegs, I've been literally, this brush is made me think that when it dies, I'll buy another one because they are so cheap. I think, with the hose, I think it's like 30 or 40 bucks. This was 125 bucks on sale on Amazon during one of the sales they had beginning of the year with the compressor. And it has the tank compressor, right? The compressor with a tank, not the tankless. So I swear it was like 125 bucks for the full set. And I was like, yeah, whatever. It came with a hose, it came with a brush, and until my Iwatas got here, I was like, well, we'll give it a shot. We'll see how it works. And I don't know what to tell you, man. It's been good. We've been painting. I mean, on the stream here, we painted some models, just really quick. Again, more conquest models. Here's a knight for the 100 Kingdoms faction, and you can tell we airbrushed all of this, but I was doing, detail airbrushing and highlighting and things like that with it. I'm not afraid to use it. I was going back and I airbrushed the purple in between the armor plates and things like that. So, I'm not afraid to put it close to the model. It's not as precise. It's not as great. I'm not going to lie to you and say you're going to get, a $500 airbrush for $40. But for what we do in miniature for just solid instantaneous coverage, it works great. There's not a problem with it. So why not? If you're doing tabletop priming and putting some color on models and you're not doing, you're not looking to do like huge display busts and lots of filtering, but it'll do that all too, It's just a little more binary. It doesn't have like the taper on the needle isn't as long. So it's that spot between where you get paint and no paint. If you pull back, when you start getting paint, you pull back a little, you get a lot more paint. So it doesn't have the resolution that a better brush would have. So for filter detailing work, working in close, it could be a little bit, for new painters, it could be a little cranky when you're trying to get good detailing. But if you've been airbrushing a long time, I think it's a great brush because you already know how to take care of a brush. It won't give you problems that way. You'll be able to identify what it does right and wrong and use it to the best of its capability. So it seems weird, but I think this crappy $40 airbrush is great for pros. I think buy a grip of them, buy 3 or 4 of them and just run them until they die and throw them away, kind of a thing. Yeah, I've been really surprised that its machining is actually very tight. It feels like it's not rubbing. I haven't had any problems. Now, granted, I have not, I'm acting like I've been using it forever. I have not been using this a ton. I don't paint here at the house every day. So. Wizard, thank you. You just have an airbrush if it came with the compressor? Yeah, somewhat civil. Exactly. Just use it. They're great. They're great. Don't worry about it too much, right? A lot of people say, is my airbrush crappy? That's only a question you can answer. If you ask me, I might say, well, that's not a brand I would use. But then now I'm using a Masters airbrush, which is one of the lowest common denominators in the airbrush business. Nobody goes out and says, you need to buy a Masters airbrush. And here I am saying, you know what? I would tell everybody that wants to start airbrushing, go buy this brush. It's got crap, like the way the cup is welded on the angle is wrong because it forms a spot where the paint likes to sit right here, but that's not where the hole down into the needle slot is. So its lowest spot is where it goes into the hole, of course, but the paint builds up here. And you have to tilt the brush back to get the paint to go into the reservoir. So that's a little bit of a problem. But again, it's not end of the world type stuff. It ain't gonna kill you. Oh, here's one. This is one where I was just doing the airbrushing on it, so you can see this gives you a better idea of, I was being able to airbrush highlights and base coats in small areas without a lot of overspray. Right? You can see the yellow. I did all that just getting in close with this same brush. I airbrushed all the purple right next to the yellow, highlights and all, and didn't get a whole lot of overspray. You can see a little bit of overspray here, but not a lot. That's all done with this Masters brush. So, I was pulling this out for a reason. I wanted the cork off of it. I want the cork, my friend. I've come to steal your poster tag. Yeah, if all you're doing is prime base coats and zenithal highlights, then dude, this brush will be your mainstay probably. And like I said, then as you get better or more confident, you need a detail brush. Yeah, I haven't had any problems with it there either. So who knows? I would have laughed if you'd have told me a year ago that I'd be sitting here telling people to buy a master's airbrush. I literally would have laughed. Like, ha ha, who are you trying to fool? Never use masters. Garbage. Great place to start, but I would always tell people expect to not use it very long. And now here I am airbrushing, so. Our standard prime coat. I'm going to put on a very thin initial layer that is literally just dusting the model with primer. We get into teaching mode instead of slapstick. Your first layer wants to barely darken the gray plastic. So I am holding the button right at that paint, no paint line that I talk about, right? When you look at it, you can still see a ton of the gray through there. This helps to get rid of any of the surface imperfections. This locks in any dirt, dust, grime, whatever else you got on the model, and lets the primer really do its job, which is to provide tooth for all your subsequent layers of paint. It can only do that if it gets really good adhesion on the first layer. And in order to guarantee good adhesion on top of plastics, resins, metals, we just put this thing together. So it has our hand oil on it. If you just got done eating Cheetos, you're your model's worst enemy, all that kind of stuff. So, look, falling off, falling off. Don't do that. But don't try to turn the model black on the first pass with primer ever. It's not how you prime cars. It's not how you prime anything in the professional painting world. So don't do it with your models, right? It's tough to say that if you're priming with our rattle cans. That's why rattle cans are made from a different solvent, but it's still better to rattle can in multiple layers if you are able to. Um, the rattle can doesn't give you the ability to control the amount of paint that comes out of it like an airbrush does, so that's definitely harder. But the thing with a rattle can is to make sure that you don't spray super close to the model so that you're not flooding it with paint on the first pass. We talk about it a lot. The problem with painting and trying to do it quick when you need to output a lot of paint like you want to when priming, if you're trying to do it in one coat, is that your paint is actually hitting the model in layers, right? You're building up a big puddle of paint. And the part of the puddle of paint that touches the model will cure much slower than the part of the puddle of paint that touches air. And hopefully that makes sense to you. Because that's the way paint works, right? The part that touches the air starts to cure first. Our acrylic paint cures very quickly. And when it cures on the outside layer of the model where it's touching air, but not on the inside where it's touching the plastic, you have problems. That's when your primer starts to slough off. That's when people say, "But I can touch it with my finger and the primer comes off." Well, it's because the primer never got a chance to cure the correct way where it touches the model. So by doing a thin coat like what you see here, where you can still see a lot of the gray, shiny plastic through the primer, you ensure that there's enough of the primer that anything that, or just enough of the primer so that the part that's curing is all of it. It's not deep, so to speak, on the model, right? We've dusted it. It starts to look black, but there's still a ton of grayish on here. And I usually prime about 2 or 3 inches away from the model, as you're seeing, which is what makes it very important to get your trigger control, trigger discipline down to where you can really just get to that point where paint starts coming out and hold it there and not, this is a heavy model, so it doesn't really want to stay on this little bitty cork very well. and not horse the trigger back. Just get it to where you can have that discipline to have your finger not horse the trigger. Just sit and press the button to get air, pull back to get paint, and then hold it at that level of paint as you go around the model. And in most cases, by the time you're going around a model like this and making sure that you got all the angles on it, because there's a lot of undercuts and making sure you're getting the button under the tail and under the side flaps of his butt wings. I don't know what else to call these things. They're butt wings. Getting up underneath there. By the time you go around and make sure you've got paint touching every surface, the paint that you put on first is cured already, because primer doesn't take a long time to cure when you put it on this thin, and then you can start layering up on top of it immediately. So doing multiple coats of primer doesn't cost you a lot of time versus doing one coat, but it saves you a lot of hassle versus what can happen when you don't pay attention and over cover it in one coat. We get so many people that'll contact us saying, hey, I'm trying to prime and yada yada, having problems. And I'm like, how many coats are you using? Oh, I'm just trying to get it done in like one or two. I'm like, no, three should be your minimum in number of passes. And the first one should be the one that covers the least. The second one is probably the one that covers the most. And the third one is your touch up layer. So start thinking of that term, and your priming gets a lot better, regardless of airbrush or rattle can or anything. Now we're kind of into coat 2, right? And so now I can put more material on the model, but I still don't want to make it to where it looks overly wet. If I'm putting big puddles of paint on, I'm still creating the same problem. Even though the first layer is connected better, the second layer starts to slough. So each one of them wants to still be controlled to a point to where it's just filling in the gaps of the one before it and not looking wet on the model, not putting on so much material that it builds up a shininess due to just overly wet surface. But the second layer helps to pick in spots like between these hairs where there was more gray showing, because the first pass only got it kind of topically on there. M3 Stout, take it easy. Bought an H&S Evo a while back and you're afraid to use it? Use it. Just a tool. I'm always a fan of use the tools you pay for. You can't hurt it. Well, you can if you don't wash it, but use it, wash it. The nice thing with the more expensive tools is that they're not more delicate in most cases. They're built out of better materials, H&S especially, right? And they're made in a way that, while not meant to be beat up, right? They're still a delicate machine, sort of, right? You have a needle that you have to watch out for bending, and the delicate nature to airbrushes, no matter who makes them. But at the end of the day, the better made ones are easier to clean. They're more forgiving in how you take them apart generally. I can't say that's true of all of them. I've seen some expensive posh brushes that are made for, detail artists that are very delicate. So I'm sure that that's not always the case, but in our world, when you're buying Iwata, Harder Steenbeck, you spend a couple $100 on a brush. You should feel confident that it's okay. You can treat that brush not like a red headed stepchild or anything. You're not going to want to beat it up and not take care of it, but you're going to want to also understand that you can be a beginner and not be confident, and the brush will let you get away with a little bit because it'll be more forgiving in how it acts when you're taking apart, cleaning, things like that. Just because it's a better brush. Striker, can you say it was rude to be an hour late to a meeting on Friday? Yeah, hour and a half. If you're talking about the people that were late for me, yes. I don't think I was late to a meeting with you, so I think I'm safe. Hour and a half. They're supposed to meet him at 2. Now, granted, they called me about the 2 o'clock thing and said, well, can we make it a little bit later? But they let me know very late in the day that they wanted to do that. And I was like, okay, yes. That's when I posted up that they were running late. And then they were late again. then I was like, I'm here. And they go, well, I'm on my way. But they want to be great people, really nice. The space is neat, so I'm excited for it. I sent some pictures to Chris. I know he's off on his weekend journey, but sent some to him. He liked it. We're gonna go take a look at it together. Maybe get Jen over there to take a look. But so far, I think that it meets our needs. And I can't explain to you how rad it is that it's literally right across the street from the office. I can park at the office and walk there. It gives us extra parking for the office that we don't have. So I'm super psyched about a lot of the premise it gets. So I've crossed my fingers and hope it works. We still have to. We're going to go ahead and rent it, but we still have to close on the other building too. So lots going on. I didn't ever want to be in real estate. I feel like that's where I spend a lot of my time thinking about a new warehouse in France and new buildings here. And good God, man, I need to not have to worry about real estate. That would be great. Now, I kind of consider what I'm doing here as third coat. Not that the second coat has like a real defined stopping point, but I feel like this feels like where I'm going over the same area for the third time here. And sometimes I'll stop and hit it with just air so I can get the wetness to dry out real quick so I can just see if what I'm looking at is shine of wetness or shine of still gray plastic showing through. It seems silly to say, but good light is imperative for priming because you don't necessarily. I mean, you can see detail on it, but it's not going to be as great as once you start getting color on there. And so you're trying to make sure that you have the lighting so you can make sure you got in between the deep spots and all of that. I'm sure you've all primed a model at one point in time with a rattle can, and then been upset when you go inside and look at it and realize how little of the model you actually covered when you're out in the sun it looked like you covered everything, right? And then you get inside and half the model doesn't have paint on it. That's that incorrect lighting. Now you got to go tell the sun that it's not lighting your model properly. Now we're starting to get a good matte coat on there. Nice. I feel like the 0.3 aperture on this master's brush is probably a little smaller than say Iwata Grex, what I'm used to as a 0.3. Its total output when you really hammer the trigger back feels less than other brushes that say they're 0.3. So I have a little bit of a gripe with that, but not too much. There's not a lot of time other than when you're priming that you really care. can see the matte area is where I've got 3 solid coats. The shiny area is where I'm still in like 2, 1.5 or 2. See, like when I get in there on that seat, now it gets rid of a lot of that shine, puts it back to where I'm making progress. And that's what'll happen. A matte paint, like our primer especially, won't really get matte until that 3rd coat goes on if you're doing it right. It's not that it's satin at first, it's that you're still seeing the shine of the model underneath in a lot of cases. And so now I'm going more full bore with layers 2 and 3 to really lock it in there. And I stop every now and then and just hit it like now with the air, just so I can make sure as I'm going that, like I mentioned before, that I'm actually covering in a good way. You can see now I'm getting way more of that matte finish. Listening to ambient with the birds chirping near your windows, building models, you're zoned out. That sounds pretty good, actually. The big yellow thing in the sky is scary. Oh, stay away. How's the velocity compared to the Eclipse on the Master? Velocity meaning output of air? I mean, it seems like it's putting out the pressure that I'm asking it to. I've set it at like 30 psi because the little bitty compressors tend to drop in actual pressure when you pull the trigger. They can't maintain, right? Medusa, what's going on? Yeah, it's fine. Make sure I don't have a lot of tip dry here. A little bit. A little bit. It's actually pretty good, though. Yeah, I have to be honest. The only thing that really is different about the Masters is, like I said, the aperture seems a little small for what it says it is as a 0.3, meaning that I don't feel like I get all the paint that I want sometimes. But priming is the literal only time that I feel that as a problem is when I'm priming. Like right now, like I just am having to stay aimed at one area to get enough wetness on there, so I'm overloading a little bit on this final coat, and then going back and using the air to dry. Right now, it's just air, not paint. Use the air to dry it off. When I see a spot that's not quite as matte as I want, I hit it again. But a lot of that is largely just because when I pull the trigger all the way back, like to the point where I'm pressing and then pulling all the way. Notice how it's still a pretty fine output. That's with it all the way back. Like I can't pull the trigger back any further than that. It still gave me a pretty thin line. My Iwata would have made a line at least 3 times as thick as that with the hammer pulled all the way back. And you would have chewed through the entire cup of paint really fast too. Whereas this just doesn't act that way. So I've had a couple of models that I have kind of not primed well enough here at the house due to that, because it just takes me longer to get it done on the whole model. But like I said, no other way that we paint is going to care about that. Base coating doesn't care about that. You're never putting on, this kind of volume of paint usually any other time. So all right, that's pretty good. You can see the difference between the rock and the body. So we're looking pretty good on the body. Just a little bit on the horns here where it's still a little bit shiny. A trip to IKEA. Cat, do you have to go like miles away? I remember when I lived in New York, a trip to Elizabeth was the only IKEA was in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And so it was like a weekend long thing, right? Day long at least to go to IKEA. And we would generally figure out, how to have dinner in Hoboken or something like that. Because it was like, if you have to leave the city to go to IKEA, plan a day. You can't get there quick. And once you've spent all that time, make the most of it. Here we can get there in like 15, 20 minutes. So yeah, it's our jerk base. I live 15 minutes from the Elizabeth. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't even matter about proximity. It's just going to Elizabeth, New Jersey, and trying to get through IKEA is still a massacre of your time. It doesn't matter. Yep. We would always be like, yep, all right, well, we'll go back to Hoboken before trying to get back through the tunnel, because you'd do it and it'd be like your Saturday inbound traffic made it impossible to get back to New York City, whatever. When I first moved to New York, I lived in, I say New York, when I first moved up there, I lived in Jersey City, right at Liberty Harbor, in a big apartment building that was on, I think, the end of Washington Street there. And so, of course, we would go to the IKEA when you needed cheap furniture, as you do. And even from there, it was a nightmare. 65 miles south and an hour drive, Kriegs. Yikes. Well, it just means don't buy IKEA. We were talking about the other day. IKEA has turned into crap stuff over time. They have a few things that I still swear by. The cabinets, the cubicle, bookcases and stuff. Some of that's still really good, but by and large, IKEA has turned into an actual crapshoot of quality. It's like, yeah, most of it's junk Chinese stuff for cost controls. Not good enough to put your money into unless you just need disposable. We wind up using more IKEA for office stuff than anything else, right? I want to say the guys have found some things there that we can use at conventions because it's low enough cost and we expect it to not last forever because it gets beat up in public anyway. Jersey City is weirdly gentrified now. Yeah, it was kind of doing that when I was there. I moved up there in 98 and it felt very weird. Uh, I then moved over into Brooklyn, which Brooklyn kind of the same, to be honest with you. Down, went up in an area called Dumbo. Probably know Dumbo. And Dumbo was very hip and eclectic, but it started becoming very yuppie, if that term means anything to anybody. You chose your age if yuppie means anything to you. Again, I'm wetting the area and then air only. And I'm leaving the base alone so you can see the difference between what we're priming and the base that still just has the single coat on the base. I didn't ever put a second coat. So the base, you can see different color, more gray, the shine of the plastic still coming through. And you can see our primer doing the work everywhere else where it's not shiny. This is a good way to prime solely because I can tell everywhere that I still need to put paint because it's still shiny. Creeks, is this the 80s? Are we wearing pink and green? Yuppies? Preppies? I guess preppies were pink and green. I'm old. I don't know anything. See, this is where I want you to look in the cup. See where all the wetness is? That is not the hole that goes down to the needle. So I got to tilt the thing back because I still have a lot of paint in the cup, but it's all sitting in the cup and not going down to the needle. I'm not doing goblin green bases. You know me better than this. No amount of crying will change the world to goblin green bases. That is not how Jason works. I will not be bullied into bad base choices. I told you how much I love our primers. There's nothing like a really good matte finish on your model to start it off with. Go ahead and put a couple extra layers in spots that I can't really see very well, like the end, like where his butt and hitting the horse and underside of the wings and stuff like that. This is a good prime job because nowhere on it are we going to put paint and have the paint look different because of the lack of black underneath it. We might have some areas that are not covered as well. I spend an inordinate amount of time priming my models. I don't like to have spots that don't have a full coat. But if you're doing fast and down and dirty and just need to get it done, then there's no reason you have to spend an inordinate amount of time. Make sure that you just don't have any areas where you would have shadow that are still showing gray plastic, right? Because then when you put paint there, your shadow is going to have a contrast to the rest of the area around it in color, just because the gray showing through is going to make the paint look different. Then I'll finish up by just hitting the base. I typically worry less about things like this with priming in the beginning, the rocks, because the way I hold my models when I'm painting, I know I'm going to rub paint off of this rock anyway. There's just no denying it. So I'm much less concerned with a complete all over good coat on this rock. I'll have to come back and reprime it with a brush when we get to that stage anyway. But go ahead and do your best. As the cork falls up for another time right in my hands. Good enough for government work. I'll take it. Somewhat civil, nice. There's no, I've always said, as a government worker, I can say that a bit. Well, you actually can say it and mean it. Where they call out that it's an overpass because nobody wants to live where you're just dumb. Yes, exactly, retired Magus. Exactly. Exactly. I was always like, what does it mean? And why is that a necessary thing? Why don't you just live in Brooklyn? It's like down under Manhattan, Brooklyn overpass. What? We lived on 81 Pearl Street. One of my shining moments was when I started streaming video games and the Division came out. Well, not when I started, but I'd been streaming for a while. When the Division came out, I don't know if anybody in stream remembers this. I don't know how many of you were around when I was streaming video games. The Division came out, and there was a section where I was dumbfounded that the guys took the time to make the map the way they did, because when you started the Division, you started in Brooklyn. The tutorial area was you getting off of a helicopter or boat or something like that, down at the docks right there, kind of in that area, right? And you could go and walk, and my apartment building was modeled in the game, but it was just out of bounds. You got to a chain link fence that had boards on it, and right across the chain link fence was Pearl Street. You could see the sign, you could see my building, and you were at the stanchion, the last stanchion of the Manhattan Bridge. That's where the building I lived in was at that last um, brick and block stanchion before it became Flatbush Ave, right there on the Manhattan Bridge. And holy cow, that was fun. I don't know why. I didn't live there anymore, but just seeing it modeled that way was funny. Why did we leave New York? I was married at the time. My wife and I, she was not, well, okay. September 11th happened, right? And as you can imagine, being in New York, if you live up there now and lived through all that, it was a very distressful time. Um, my partner at the time, she had been trapped in New York. Our apartment was down off of Church, West Broad, right down there, like 3 blocks from the World Trade. And so that we never got to go to that apartment again after that, because it got loaded up with dust. All the buildings around there had to be, completely like savagely cleaned. And so we never were able to live in that apartment again. Um, I was working for a company that was in Pennsylvania, and so most of my work had moved to where I was in Pennsylvania most of the time and was only spending the weekends in New York. And so we got a house in Pennsylvania in the Allentown, Bethlehem area. And my partner at the time, she worked in the fashion industry for a company called Hermes, and Hermes gave her an offer to take over the West Coast, the entire West Coast for Hermes, all the Neiman Marcus, all the Rodeo Drive boutique, and all that stuff. So they basically handed her a ridiculous promotion in that industry, and she took it. And we had kind of moved around for my jobs and my wants, and she had that opportunity, so we did. So we moved to California, and she did that job and hated it, and we got divorced, and end of story. But we were both kind of done with New York. I always love it. I tell everybody, if you have the opportunity, you should go and live in New York, or get a job there, spend some time there, and then move back to wherever you came from. Right? Unless you just fall in love with it. Sniper Corgi, what's going on? Yeah, they did some pretty cool stuff in the division. It's not all, obviously perfect, but it's pretty crazy what they did to model the city correctly. You know, pretty neat. I was really impressed because I was like, nah, no, there's no way that my building is here, and it was right there. I said my building, where we lived, 81 Pearl Street. I still remember. Fourth floor or fifth floor, Unit 5C. It was an old pre-war manufacturing building that was just lofts, a neat loft. But my bathroom, I always tell everybody, my bathroom was kind of a disaster because we were right there by the L, right, the train that slung under the Manhattan Bridge. I forget if it's a D train, L train, I don't remember what it was. The And so the train would go by underneath the Manhattan Bridge all the time and rattle the dishes in the kitchen and stuff like that, because it was, if the train was 50 feet from my bathroom window, I'd be surprised. I'm pretty sure it was like 50, maybe 60, 75 feet. The building, the train. So there'd be mornings where in the summer you got the window open in the bathroom to let the steam out, because it's an old, pre-war loft building and didn't have fans in the bathroom, and to let the steam out, and you'd be there in a towel or butt ass naked, and the train would get to where it was bogged down and have to stop, and they would stop the train underneath the bridge, and it'd be stopped, and you look out the bathroom window, it'd be like toothbrush in your mouth, butt ass naked, and there's people on the train, going about their day 50 feet away from you. Commando King, you live like 15 minutes away from Bethlehem. I lived in we had a house in Emmaus, and then we sold that house and moved to downtown Allentown. I think it was 7th Street. I don't remember maybe 5th Street. I don't remember. 5th Street maybe is like the central street in Allentown that goes away from downtown. We bought a big brownstone in Allentown there in the crappiest area of town by the jail. Crazy. New York's too big for you. You grew up hunting and fishing too much here in the flatlands. You feel hemmed in. It's pretty crazy. I grew up in Texas and had a lot of land. Well, I didn't have a lot of land, but you could roam. Even though I lived in the city, you could roam. You could go hunting and stuff like that, which you can in New York too. It's just a bigger pain. The city's a lot. It's its own jungle. Like they call it the urban jungle for a reason. It's its own thing, right? You can go exploring and it's crazy, but it is all concrete and nonsense. You had a Blues Brothers apartment in New York. I don't know what that. I guess maybe no. You live upstate New York, so you've been in and out of the city quite a few times over the years. But I don't think I'd be able to live in the city for long. Yeah, your wife would be a ball of anxiety. It's a lot. It is a lot. Went to New York once, went in the military, never again. Way too many people for you. It can get, like I said, it can be a lot. It can be way overwhelming. You know, I used to have people come visit, and it was like, you know, country mouse, city mouse. You know, they come in and they just be like wide eyed, like, oh my God. Things would happen that would never happen wherever they came from, you know, like just the what would you call it? It's not anger in New York. It's not road rage. It is the voracity with which people drive is the way to explain it, I think. Right. And so traffic is one of the biggest things because I had a car there and people would come visit and we'd drive. I'd get in the car and be like, all right, we're going from Brooklyn to Manhattan, and we'd drive over there for dinner instead of taking the train. And people would be like, you drive here? And I'd be like, yeah, watch. And you just, you know, you drive like a New Yorker. So Tadpole Jack used to have to drive a big truck. Tim talks about it, right? Because I think Tim would catch himself like on the LIE or on the BQE trying to get out to Long Island or something like that, and just absolutely, you know, it's when you're in a big truck. I can't imagine. I've never driven a big truck in New York. As a matter of fact, I don't even think I've had to take a pickup truck with a trailer full of motorcycles through the city, but I've never driven anything bigger than that. And that was like a 16-foot trailer and a pickup truck, which is still, you know, a lot for New York. But I can't imagine driving like even a box truck. They had a shoebox SRO at the level of the L, shaking the apartment each time it passed. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I always think of that scene in Seven, right? Brad Pitt and what's her name? Gwyneth Paltrow, when they get the apartment and the train goes by and they have to hold all the dishes still. That was kind of how our kitchen was. It was exactly like that. That you would have to mute or you'd pause the TV if you could, right? But this is back in the day before you could pause TV, so you just mute the TV as the train went by. You know, you drive with a purpose, yes, and your horn is a tool. That's why they put it in the car. Your horn is a tool. Use it. To and from LaGuardia, I don't know about all that. That's tough. Can't take Kansas out of the Kansas. Yeah. More people in New York City than in the entire state of Kansas. That feels right because I've gone through Kansas enough times to know that it's pretty empty. Came back from New York with a newfound love of your horn. I am not afraid to use my horn. People hate it in Arizona. Nobody uses their horn unless they feel like you're road raging at them. People sit at a light for too long, give them a little civil beep beep. Had to lay on the horn yesterday because some idiot was like walking his bicycle down the lane, not across, but like down the lane against traffic with no purpose. It was a bike that was missing one tire, and he was just walking it down the street in the middle lane. Having to drive through New York City to get to your brother's place in Long Island, you think you had your eyes were splitting trying to keep an eye on each lane? Yeah. You know, I never found that it was really that bad. Hi. You're not going to be on Doggo Cam, are you? You're too small. You probably don't fit. Can we see her? Oh, look at her. That's Poppy. She's begging for some attention. You want to come up here? You want to come up here? You want to come up here with Dad? Huh? You want to come up here with Dad? There's Cora, too. It's the doggos. Say hi. Oh, yeah. Say hi. Look over there. Look over there. Say hi. How you doing? Give me some kisses. I'll put good kisses. And then Cora's got some kisses too. Oh, they want. This is the give me treats look. Is this the give me treats look? Is this the give me treats look? They want some treats. Need a squeaker near the cam. They don't like the squeak. Poppy likes squeaky toys, but Cora doesn't. Oh gosh, they want treats. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Oh, you got them? Jen got them treats. You can always tell because we leave the back door open on the weekends, and when they've gone outside and they remember that when they pee, they're supposed to get treats, they'll come running in here directly to Dad because Mom doesn't pay attention. So they come in here and yell at me. Both of them. They gang up on me. Usually it's Poppy first. Poppy will come and jump from from that chair, is a big beanbag chair, that red one on the dog cam. They'll jump on that, and then my desk is right next to it. I can't really show you, but I can. Hang on. So if you can hear me. So that's the chair, and that's my desk, right? So that's where I'm sitting a lot when I'm at home. And so they'll bounce on the chair. They'll floor to chair to desk right there, right? And I pile stuff on the corner of the desk to try to keep them off, but they still jump on the desk and will stand on my mouse, and then they'll jump on me. And so that's the way they get to Dad, is they come and annoy me. They jump on my desk. Cora does it too. Cora's way too big. She'll stand on the desk and then be like, give you a serious eye stare, and they'd be like, "You want a treat, don't you?" And they didn't run off. They nailed it. So, of course, like when you're picking me up, she does think that she's as small as Poppy, and that's not how that works. So, she is not as small as Poppy, it turns out. All right, hang on. See if I can get this camera to actually not have my chin cut off the whole time. There we go. You back already? Oh, you having fun? You having fun with Dad holding you, huh? It's treat o'clock. Yes, exactly. Holy cow, it's nearly 6 o'clock? What? When did we start this stream? We've been going for 3 hours. Wow. Now Cora's talking too. It's like dinner time. That's why they came in here. It's not treat time, it's dinner time. They got treats and now they're still mad. You got 2 pit bulls? Yeah, Cora's a pit bull mix. A pit bull mutt. Oh, yeah. Yeah. As soon as you sit down on the couch, she like dog piles you. Head butts you. She doesn't care. She's a big dunderhead. She'll run right into you and body slam you. It's crazy. Yeah, 5:45 to 6 o'clock is dinner time. And they know it. Like, they know it. They're serious about it. So I guess that's our cue that we have to stop. We got a model built and primed. I feel like that's probably a pretty good amount of work, right? It was more complicated than I thought with more pieces, but it turned out really nice. It's a great model, right? So now I'm excited. My color scheme thoughts is that I want to kind of, because we already started doing one of the trees, and I didn't do the tree, I forget what they're called. They have these big dudes that are like trees, like ints. And I have one of those that's going to go in the army, and I already got him in kind of a, it's not really a fall feeling, but it's the more warm browns for the wood. So I was thinking I would do something in like a burnt sienna to burnt orange to warm yellow kind of skin, something that keeps it in a brown fur, but not brown fur, really warm. And then the hair almost like leaves. And then it has a mask on, right? Kind of like a Studio Ghibli kind of a monster. It has a mask on the face. I was going to do the mask in like pure white, and then do the armor in white, like some sort of, kind of like I do the wings on the Blood Angels, where we do some underpainting of like turquoises and magentas, and then do the white over the top. So it's kind of pearlescent armor on them, do all the armor in white with greens and red. So I don't know. We'll play around with it. Big bone-colored antlers and stuff. So that'll give me some time to think about color scheme, but huzzah. I love it. Some of the other weekend streams, I'm glad that you guys actually turn out for them. It's always fun. I feel like this is a way more casual thing for me, so I hope you guys appreciate that. It's neat for me to just be able to sit and hobby, and when I don't want to listen to a book or something, turn on the stream and spend time with my friends on the internet. So I really appreciate you guys. It's not as tutorial oriented, I know. So if you had questions and I missed them, or if you felt like it wasn't the right time to ask, always make sure you ask them during the week on the Monday through Friday show. I have more models at the studio, so I don't get into super tutorial mode, because I can't just grab all my stuff and be like, check this out. I have nothing here. I have like a couple of things I've started, but it's awesome. Stan says, before we go, how would you paint a true metallic metal green using Pro-Acryl? So if you want green shiny armor, there's a couple of ways to do it, right? You can obviously paint with whatever undercoat metallic you like. I like the bronzes for green because they have a yellowish brownish tint to them. Magnesium is great, and then you can do something like glazes of green over them. The OneStep paints will be good for that when they come out, but the transparent green is really good. You can mix it with like the green and the brown. It's a very phthalo green. It's almost like a green with a blue hue. So you can mix yellows and other colors with it, and you can filter a green over the top of a metallic, or you can mix your metallics with green and do it that way. The transparents are always going to work better than, say, the opaque green paints, because the opaque paints tend to take away the shine of the metal flake because they overdo it with the amount of pigment that is not reflective versus the reflective mica flake. So you can take metallic medium and mix it with colors, and that works really well. So there's a lot of things at play for you to use to keep that metallic sheen going on. You can technically, I showed it on stream not too long back, you can technically paint your whole model non-metallic with your greens and then add the metallic over the top, like do a final coat of metal, the metallic medium, with whatever your main green is, and glaze that over the top at the very end, and that will give it the feel that you painted with metallics, but all the color underneath it is not. You're kind of, because you're glazing, you're letting your undercoat of green show through, and you're just glazing the metal flake. Really, you can't just use the metallic medium on its own, because it does have kind of a pearlescent film to it. Like if you just use it without any color, it looks like kind of a milk that you put over the top of it. Not pure white, but it will desaturate color underneath it. But if you mix color with it, it works great. So there's a lot of ways to play with that. Bane Scar, good to see you. Hope everything's going well down your way. It's a small snake ornament. That'd be cool. Yeah. I like mixing the greens in. Believe it or not, mixing in blues like dark gray blue or just pure blue in with some of the golds and the bronzes, you get really, really cool greens. Blue transparent with bronze makes an amazing kind of blue-green metallic. So try that and see if you like that as a base coat, and then you can highlight over the top of it with some of the other greens mixed in with those colors too. So there's a lot of ways to get really cool metallic colors using the transparents and either the colored metallics or the metallic medium. That's where I tell everybody to go first. I've painted many of my fingernails showing that off. Striker, yeah, it definitely is. Better to have hobby be a little bit social. But you don't have to be at the store, where you can always turn it off when you need to be alone. Miniature Apprentice, thanks for hanging out with us. Paint Liquor, thanks for hanging out. Absolutely awesome spending time with you guys and gals on a Saturday. Love it. Graphite green and silver would be really bitchin'. The graphite green is a grayish green. You could mix a little bit of yellow into it. That would be great if you already have some of the OneSteps. Would be fantastic. Lots of really fun ways you can do this. Yep. Show of hands of chat for anyone painting minis tonight on a tugboat. What? Tugboat boat, painting on a tugboat. I love the idea. I am not on a tugboat. Everybody, take it easy. Let me see. Let me see if I can figure out how to raid people on my computer here. I know how to do it. Let me see if I can make it happen. And we will definitely keep this going if we can find somebody. Who we following? Monster Den is on. It looks like that's it for painting. Let's go raid Monster Den. Monster Den minis it is. How about that action? How do I do this? How do I get back to my chat? I think I have to do this. And then pause it so I don't hear myself twice. Aha! There we are. Great. If you're over on Twitch, I am going to raid into Monster Den Minis. So right here in just a second, hit the button so you can go over there. Monster Den Minis. And you'll see that going on. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with me. As always, I love it. I really love these weekend casual streams, so thanks for joining me. Hope I didn't ruin anybody's stream streaks. Make sure to keep your eyes out. We'll be back on Monday with Chris and I back in the normal studio at the normal bat time. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I'm out of here. Adios, gang.